Today, we have to cover my complete end-to-end sales system. After training over 24 closers to close over an average of $1 million per month in cash collected for multiple months, and including one closer who closed over 70% for over 14 months straight, and getting sales teams to over $6 million per month in cash collected, I have decided it's finally time to record my complete end-to-end sales training on how to get those results. This training is for you if you are a salesperson who's currently not making at least 30 grand per month in commissions, or you're a business owner and your product or service offering is not closing at the 40 to 50% mark. This training will help you even if you've already been through another high-ticket training system or other closer school or other types of sales training like Medic or the Challenger Sale or Jeremy Miner, Cole Gordon, any of those guys, and you still haven't found the success you're looking for. Or if you just want to save yourself the time of going through a whole 40-hour sales training and just get everything distilled down to the most important 2 to 3 hours. And as a bonus, if you guys make it all the way to the very end of this training video, I will give you a special bonus that's only available at the very end of the video that will double the value of this video. And no, it's not a paid product. It's completely free. So with all that preamble out of the way, let's dive into it, guys. I hope you have a note-taking device ready. Here's what we're going to be covering today. Number one, the most important part of the sales call that I don't see trained anywhere else. Number one, the most important part of the sales call. Number two, the elements of a sales call that nobody else is teaching or training out there. I haven't seen anybody else speak on these issues. Number three is the bulletproof structure of a sales call that leads to 40+% close rates. Decision architecture. Number four is objection handling is a myth, what to do instead. Number five is how to handle every objection you're ever going to hear. Even though, yes, I train how to pre-handle or get objections out of the way, make sure they don't rise as much as possible. Sometimes you do get objections, stalls, or smoke screens. Here's how to handle every single one you could ever hear. And yes, this is from my own experience of over 12,000 years in the trenches in sales in both B2B and B2C, so I'm pretty sure I've heard the objection that you're facing. Number six is how to double your close rate the fastest way. And number seven is how to train your sales skills without a coach or trainer. This is for everyone who doesn't necessarily have access to a coach, a great leader, a great sales mentor, a great trainer. You can improve on your own, just like I did when I was first in the trenches. I added these specific modules, guys, because I could not find any other sales trainer, coach, or guru on YouTube or anywhere else for that matter addressing these specific pain points and these specific modules. So this is my net new contribution to sales knowledge on YouTube or wherever you view this video. I hope you enjoy it. The most important part of a sales call, beginnings are such delicate times, as Frank Herbert in the classic sci-fi novel Dune. You probably wouldn't be surprised if I told you that the first 60 seconds of the call is the most important time. Just like the first 60 seconds of a YouTube video is most important, and if you're still here watching this, I did my job to get you interested in those first 60 seconds. Now, it's the same on the sales call. If you can nail the first 60 seconds and you get your prospect to buy in both to you as a person and how you're going to run the sales call, you have a much better chance of actually closing the deal. Everything downstream of that first 60 seconds becomes much easier if you just nail it. So it doesn't make sense. You just put a disproportionate amount of your time, energy, and attention on nailing that first 60 seconds. I think it does. So here are the first 3 points you need to nail in the first 60 seconds of each and every sales call. Frame, the agenda, and the status alignment. Now, if you're used to marketing speak, one thing I can make a comparison for you is that the agenda is sort of like the hook of a YouTube video. So just like at the start of this YouTube video, I gave you my credentials and told you what you could expect to experience if you really took these lessons to heart. Your frame should be, or your agenda should be a bit of a hook to make the prospect a little bit more excited to stay for the rest of the sales call. And it also conveys that you're just not going to waste their time. This isn't going to be a standard, average, boring call. This is going to be a high value call that they're going to get a lot out of. Now, there's an underappreciated fourth element that I will mention here because nobody else talks about it. And that is that at the start of the sales call, it needs to be free of defects. Now, what is a defect? It would be something that causes friction or causes the two of you to not link up and sync up as humans in limbic resonance with your nervous systems. So a defect would be something like the audio's not working, the video's not working, talkovers and interruptions, you guys can't sync up your speech styles, being late, a loud or annoying noise happens on their side or on your side. They annoy you or you annoy them. One of you is obviously on another call, finishing up, for example, or someone gets up and they're like, "Hey, sorry, Drew, just a second. I'm just on another call. Sorry, Drew. I'll just be a second." And then they just like turn off their camera. It's annoying, right? And then one of you treats the meeting as unimportant or optional. Now, this will also get into a status alignment we'll talk about in a moment here. All you need to do, dear listener, is from your side, make sure that your call is defect-free, meaning the audio, the camera, the lighting, all of that is dialed in. You're on time, ready to go, full attention on the prospect, basic, respectful meeting hygiene, no kids crying in the background, no dogs yelping in the background, all that stuff. Okay, so from there, we go into status alignment, winning or playing in the status game. Now, the prospect may accidentally or deliberately introduce defects from their side, and this is our perfect segue into status alignment. Humans play status games around sales calls because a transaction is fundamentally a status leveling exercise. Who has more status, who needs the other person, or doesn't need the other person. And especially insecure people will often come on calls trying to claim the highest possible status. I don't really need you. I'm just here as a courtesy to you. I shouldn't even be on this call. I'm too advanced for this. I'm the expert. You're the beginner. That type of thing generally belays a lot of insecurity. So take that to the bank. We fundamentally only want to buy from people of greater or equal status, and we will generally not buy things from humans we perceive to be lower status. We go in search of someone higher status. Even if a lower status human offers us something that we think might be good, we're generally going to not want to associate with them, and so we're going to go look for someone who can sell it to us at higher status. That's why often dropping your price is a mistake, because it signals lower status, and then someone will say, I don't have the money for that, and then go down the street and buy something that's twice as expensive. So, what are some examples of status games or status pings, meaning slight challenges to your status? Being late, having the camera off and refusing to turn it on, usually for reasons of health or illness, or oh, I have a sick kid. Is it okay if I can't turn my camera on? To say nothing of the fact that there's literally no logical connection between having a sick kid and needing to have your camera on. I don't care if I see your kids runny-nosed in your lap. I just need to see your face and how you're reacting to my talk tracks. Ignoring the call, taking another call, like I mentioned, appearing to be super busy or deprioritizing the call. These are the people that are always like staring off on some other screen like, and they're like obviously typing somewhere else. Interrupting or asserting your own frame at the start of the call, like let's cut to the chase, cut the BS, don't pitch me, just give me the price. Insulting the background or asking questions about it, like sometimes you'll get wise guys on calls and you have one of those virtual backgrounds for Zoom or Google Meet, and they'll say, oh, that's amazing. I have that exact same bookshelf in my room. And that's a status ping, right? Turning the where you are from question into a status game, like, oh, you're in India? Oh, what time is it there? Oh, that's a pretty cheap place, huh? Or just asking you, oh, how old are you? How long has your business been around? Is your business local? Is it domiciled in India? Those can all be status pings. So the question becomes, how are we then going to respond to the status pings? Prospects will often status ping you early in the call to see who they're dealing with and see if you're strong enough to solve their problem. So here is how to master status leveling. You guys got to remember, this is a lizard brain type of transaction. We're seeing, should I fight, flee, freeze, feed, or fawn on this person? The lizard brain is always going to put us into one of 5 main states based on the person we see across from us and what we perceive their status could be. So if we think that they're threatening and they threaten me, we might choose to fight. They threaten me, but I stand a really good chance of beating them in a fight. And this could be a verbal fight, doesn't have to be physical. Flee. They threaten me, I can't beat them, therefore I'm going to retreat. Freeze. I don't threaten them, but if I draw attention, they may hurt me. Fawn. They have something I want, I can get it by being nice. I can sweet talk them out of it. Or feed. They have something I want and I can get it easily no matter what. Now think about the different status levels that have to be in place in order for your lizard brain to trigger any one of these 5 reactions. So if there's a fight reaction, you're probably feeling like you're on pretty even status. Generally, people don't try to fight people that are massively higher status than them because they know they would be crushed instantly. If someone is massively higher status to you, you're more likely to try to flee or to freeze, thinking if I just stay completely static and don't offend them, maybe they won't beat me up. Verbally, right? In this case. In most cases on sales calls, we're on Zoom, we're not talking about a physical altercation. Or I might also choose, if someone's much higher status than me, to fawn over them and try to win them over to my side so that they don't beat me up on price or any other way. And then if someone comes on status and you as a salesperson are obviously much higher status than them, you might be tempted to go after them a little bit. And maybe you would pitch your price at a higher amount, or you try to collect more paid in full. You do other things that are a very subtle way of feeding on the energy of the other person. The mistake that most salespeople make is they choose to fawn as a default when they should choose none. Yes, that's right. There's an unanticipated, unacknowledged 6th option here, which is to not play the status leveling game at all. Refusing to play is the only way to make sure you always win. Just like in rock, paper, scissors, when there's counters for every single move you can throw, the move that counters all the other moves is to not play at all. Exiting the lizard brain means you stay emotionally neutral and refuse to be threatened by your prospect in any way. When you fawn, it prompts others to feed on you. So for instance, when you come into the sales call and you're like, oh, thank you, Mr. Prospect. Thank you so much for your time. I know your time's really valuable. I promise I won't waste it. It's going to be such a good use of your time. I promise. What are you doing? You're fawning, and that's going to trigger the feed reaction in your prospect. They're going to say, oh, this guy, I can take advantage of him. He's scared. He's already frightened of me. I can definitely take advantage. I can get what I want. I can run this call. When you stay neutral and you just don't respond to status pings, they're more likely to either be neutral with you back, or they might try to ping you and knock you off your balance a few times. When you refuse to be knocked off your balance, what's going to happen? They're going to realize you're not a pushover, and they're going to come back to neutral status leveling with you, which is where you want them. Some of them will even start fawning towards you as a response to the fact that you are imperturbable. The only state that you want to prospect in is either neutral, which is true status leveled, or fawning over us. Those are the only two acceptable places, energies, from which you can sell. It's very unlikely you're going to sell to someone who's going to try to flee from you, someone who's frozen, which means no decision, or someone who's trying to feed on you. Those people are generally not going to buy unless you give them such a screaming deal that they feel that they completely ripped your heart out, metaphorically speaking, of course, in the deal. The best places to sell from is neutral, status leveled, or they're fawning over us. Think of it. If there's something threatening you and you're not showing signs of fear, it must be because you're bigger than the threat and you can handle it. Perfect example. I was out on a walk with my dog the other day. We were just coming back to my house, to the mailbox. Now, there's a game trail that runs up the side of my house, up the top of the mountain, and then down all the way into the ravine that a lot of deer travel back and forth on. If you guys follow my Instagram, you've seen me post a lot of pictures of the deer. There's sometimes cougar. There's a lot of wild turkeys, chipmunks, etc. And on this game trail, this one morning, 7:30 in the morning, we stopped dead at the mailbox and we looked up the game trail. Well, there was a big coyote standing maybe 10 yards away from us, just staring at us both, coming down the game trail. Obviously, he was hunting the deer, most likely. And my dog and I stopped. She sat down and just looked at it, and I looked at it. And there was that moment of, again, this is nature. Am I going to feed, flee, freeze, fawn? Like, what's going to happen here? So if there's something bigger than you that's threatening you, like I know that a coyote could be a threat to me and my dog, but I just chose to stand stock still, have my bear spray, and the coyote then turned around and ran back up the game trail. Now, why did it do that? Well, if you're not showing signs of fear of a predator, it must be because you're bigger than the threat and can handle it. Now, not to say that there's a lot of coyote predation on humans. Like, this is not the biggest threat ever. The coyote knew, in fact, that I was probably a bigger threat to it than it was to me. But just think of that principle in nature. If you're threatening something, like if the prospect comes down and they're talking loudly or they're trying to status ping you, disrespect you, and you're not reacting, that must be because you're bigger than the threat and you can handle it. You need to be bigger than the threat of the prospect. On the other hand, if you fall to pieces and you get all flustered, then they know they've got you. But if you stay neutral emotionally, then the status has to level. So again, the power move, neutral is power. Now, once we've passed the initial status pings and we remain neutral and unaffected by anything they try to do to us, or by pushing back in a respectful and playful manner that lets them know we don't really care that much and their status pings don't affect us, then you can move on to setting the frame and the agenda. So what does that look like? Here is where we set the stage for the call. Now, you've heard about you've heard the frame and the agenda in a sales call talked about the same way, but they're really not. They're two distinct pieces of the call. So in the frame, it's who's asking questions and who is helping whom. The person who's asking the questions owns the call. The person who is there for help needs the help. And the person who is there to provide the help is running the call. The agenda is the agreement about what is going to happen on the call that the two of you share. So a frame would be, hey, Drew, great to meet you today. I just want to ask you a few questions about your business to determine if we could even help you. And if we can, I'll let you know how we do that. If not, I can defer you to someone else who can. Does that sound like a good agenda? So that is us setting the frame. Even though I said the word agenda, I know it's a little confusing. I'm setting the frame. Does that sound fair? It would be the best way to end the frame. And now the frame I put around the call is I'm here to see if I can help you. And if I can, I'll let you know, but there's a possibility that I can't. So then I'll tell you to go somewhere else. That's my frame around the call. The agenda would be also, this is what we're going to do on the call. This is the agreement of what happens on the call. So the basic rule is whoever starts into the frame agenda first wins it. That means you need to be dialed in and paying attention, and you need to grab the initiative and insert the frame in the agenda before the prospect has a chance to frame what the call is going to be about. Because if you get on and you're chit-chatting and you're like, oh, I'm in San Antonio, where are you at? Oh, I'm in Miami. Oh, how's the weather? Oh, that's great. It's unseasonably warm. Oh, that's crazy. It is here too. Huh, that's really funny. How about the Miami Dolphins? Let's talk about that for a while. And they say, all right, Drew, well, I'm really on this call to understand your guys' pricing, and that's really it. So what's your pricing? That person has now seized the initiative, the frame, and they set their own agenda. And now you have to battle that. You have to get into a frame battle, an agenda battle, to convince them that, no, actually, that's not why we're on this call, is I'm not here just to give you price. And immediately you're in objection handling, which is not where you want to be. So hop in. John, it's great to meet you. My name is Drew. Today, I just want to assess whether your company is looking to go revenue-wise so we can see if we'd even be able to possibly help you. If we can, I'll suggest what that might look like. Sound good? You've just grabbed the frame and put the call on track. So now watch their reply carefully. They may agree with no problems, which is a green flag. They may set their own agenda. Yeah, I was actually just shopping around a little bit. I want to get a little bit more info about what you guys do. That's them proposing their own agenda, right? They're adding to your agenda. Now you have the choice to accept or reject this frame. So yeah, that's not a problem. We'll cover all the information you could possibly need in this call, but at the end of the day, we're here to see if we're a fit to work together. Does that make sense? And that's you just subtly changing what they said to make it fit together with your agenda and proposing it and getting them to accept it. Very rarely will people ever battle you at that point. Most of them will just accept how you reframed their agenda. It's very rare that you'll have to reassert yourself even once. In B2C, it may take 2 to 3 times. If someone is refusing to get on board, you may have to fully disqualify them on the call. But in B2B, it's very rare. You'll have to kind of reassert yourself and push the frame. So that wraps up how to handle the most important part of the call, which is the beginning. If you found this to be valuable, I just want you to know that knowing this intellectually is not enough. You have to practice it, which is why I'm going to invite you to my school community down below, where we can assign you a role play partner. You can practice this and you can come to our weekly calls where we break down calls, and you can further get this stuff into your own sales calls in the future so you can get direct feedback. Link is in the description. There is a 7-day free trial. There's no better price than free. And boom, we are in a new place, but the content remains the same. So you ever have that feeling in a call where you feel like, I'm not sure if I should pitch yet, or is now when I should pitch? Yeah. Well, I'm about to tell you and train you on the exact tool that you've been lacking, that no one else has ever trained you on what to do with that feeling and how to know when to pitch, when to move to the next section of the call, when to move on from discovery, when to move on from pitching, when to close. And the key, my dear friends, is in something called transitions. This is the missing piece that nobody ever taught you. Most sales training that you've had before today has just handed you a map with pieces missing from it, or a puzzle with pieces missing from it. So it's not the complete picture. And every other sales trainer that I've ever met is handing you an incomplete picture because they haven't told you, they haven't trained you on this key concept, which is called transitions. How are you going to follow a map to buried treasure if there are pieces of the map missing? That's exactly my critique of most modern sales training, and I'm going to solve it right now. The connective tissue, the ligaments that hold a call together are the transitions, and our skeletons wouldn't hold together without ligaments and connective tissue, right? We would just be puddles of goo. So if you don't want your sales calls to be puddles of goo, then you need to learn the transition that I'm about to tell you. So there's 3 key transitions that I'm going to teach you that need to be in all of your sales calls going forward. And they're the following. One is the transition between the discovery and the pitch. The purpose of this transition is to confirm your understanding and confirm the value of what you're about to pitch. The second is the transition between pitch and them being sold. And this is your permission to close and collect money. And the third would be the transition between sold and closed. And this is where you're asking for the business. Now, that first transition, discovery to pitch, is also known as the summary of discovery. Now, I do think it's valuable to summarize your discovery or the pain dive as you go through it, little mini summaries along the way to confirm understanding. But what's even more powerful, and you should do this in addition to, not instead of, is at the end of all your discovery, you do a final 1-sentence summary that pulls together everything that they've previously told you in a single gut punch of a sentence. So it's going to summarize the pain of the problem, or the goal, or both, the cost of inaction, the reasons that they failed to reach the goal so far, everything that they've already tried and failed to do, the reasons they want to use your specific vehicle or product service to get there, the reasons that they want to use you as the pilot or the driver of that vehicle, the reason they want to do all this now, the status of their company in terms of other decision makers being on board with moving forward, and then tie it all together by asking, is that everything, or did I miss anything at all that's important to you? So here's your example. Let's say I'm summarizing a discovery, and I would say, all right, your business has been struggling to get more leads for the last 6 months. During that time, you've estimated to me that that's cost you approximately $500,000. You've tried PPC, you've tried buying lead lists, you've tried organic content, you've tried cold email outreach, you've tried LinkedIn outreach, you've tried all these methods, and nothing has worked because, as you related to me, there's really no in-house expertise in lead gen and marketing. You guys are just experts in your product and service. And right now is the time to fix lead gen because your investors have demanded growth of 5x over the next 2 years, or they're going to pull the plug. Now, did I get all that correct, or did I miss anything at all that is important to you? Now, we're going to talk about this more in the bulletproof structure of the sales call, the sequence coming up later, but you have to summarize the problems in a single sentence and get the emotional impact of the pain or goal across in the single sentence. Why it's important? Because they're not going to feel the emotional gut punch
of their situation unless you summarize it in their attention span. And as we know, attention spans right now, they might be shrinking below goldfish level, under 7.5 seconds. So you have to get it pretty succinct. Now, obviously the summary I just gave you as an example was longer than 7.5 seconds, but just try to do a good job at it. Don't worry too much if it's over 7.5 seconds. Just do your best to make it succinct. Don't go for 30 seconds. Just try to keep it pretty succinct. Just short, like Corbin Dallas, like shh, Lilu, shh, short, fifth element. All right, now this other benefit of this summary, it's the first time they've probably ever heard their pain, their problem, their goal so succinctly summarized, and that makes a big impact. Then the other reason is it shows that you're actually listening. And then the third thing that's great is at the very end, if you notice that little bit of linguistic magic I pulled where I said, or did I miss anything at all else that's also important to you? And that's important because it means that I care about what's important to them. What's important to them is important to me. And that is a critical component of being a great salesperson. So that's the transition after the discovery. The other part of it that's important is after they say, the goal of the discovery summary is that they should say something like, no, Drew, there's nothing else. You've got it exactly correct. And when they say that, then you know that you've got it exactly correct. You made an impact. Practice this until 9 out of 10 times they're telling you, no, Drew, you've got it exactly correct. Now, the other part is to finish that transition. After you summarize discovery, you're going to move into pitching. And you're going to get permission to pitch in the following way. You're going to say, okay, great. Well, the good news, John, is I'm confident that our product service can help you get to that goal of 5x revenue. Would you like me to walk you through how we would do that? And he's going to say, of course, please walk me through it now. So that's permission to pitch, and it's going to slide you very gently and authentically into the pitch. Now let's talk about that transition from the pitch to sold. So you do your whole pitch, right? You do your 3 pillars, or you talk them through your product or service, or you demo your software if you have a software solution, whatever it is. You give them the services, the software, the product, the service, whatever it is. You walk them through the timeline of exactly how you're going to implement, exactly all the great things you're going to do for them. And then you say, does that all sound good to you? Do you like all that? And they say, absolutely. Now, this happens after everything you covered. And then you're going to say, does it seem like we have everything that you need to accomplish that 5x revenue growth goal? You always want to put it in context of their goal. You don't want to just ask them, does it seem like we have a great product? They could say yes, but think it's completely useless for their purposes. You could say, do you like our software? And they could say, very cool, but my plan is to rip it off internally. I don't want to buy yours, right? So you have to ask a specific question. Does it seem like we have everything you need to accomplish? Insert their goal. That is going to key the question off of, can we help you climb to the top of Mount Everest? Do you want us to help you climb to the top of Mount Everest? Is the next logical question in the sequence. So, does it seem like we have everything you'd need to accomplish X goal? And they say yes. Then it's important that you continue the transition by asking the following question. Well, what's the main reason that you say that, John? Or what in particular did you like most about what I presented, John? And then he's going to go and expound in more depth and detail on what it was that he liked so much about your presentation, product, or service. This is getting them to say in their own words why your product or service meets their needs and it's going to help them achieve their goal. This is not only solid sales psychology to get them to mentally buy in, it's also great language for your marketing team to then harvest and pump back into your marketing. That's a pro tip. A lot of your sales collateral, marketing collateral, ad units should be using words and language that you harvested from the sales calls. If you are not harvesting marketing language from your sales calls, you are leaving a huge amount of money on the table and you are enduring unnecessarily high cost per acquisition, cost per view, cost per click, all that good marketing stuff. So then after you've said, well, hey, John, do you think we have everything you need to get you to your goals? And he said, yes. And you've said, well, John, what exactly did you like the most? Or what is the main reason you say that? What else did you like? And he's expounded for 5 to 10 minutes. Then you're going to say, well, John, that's great to hear. The next steps are pretty simple. I'd like to just go over how we get you onboarded, get you started to receive our thing so you can get to your goal. Does that sound good? So this is permission to pitch part 2. Now they are inviting you to ask them to pay. Now prospects aren't going to close themselves. Across 12 plus years in B2B and B2C, I've never met a prospect that just throws their credit card at you and says, okay, I'm ready to pay now. How do I sign up? Very rarely, maybe 1 in 1,000 prospects will do that, but you can't build a sales process around a 1 in 1,000 incidents. You have to be the one to lead them into the close, and this is how you do that. Give them what I call a clear future. The next steps are pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and take care of that upfront payment. We're going to select the package that works for you, take care of the upfront payment. We're going to send you the email to log in. We're going to get you onboarded on Slack. We're going to schedule your onboarding call, fill out your intake form, whatever it is that they have to do for onboarding. You're going to let them know right now, and you're going to walk them through that in a clear future. Then you're going to ask, is that okay with you? Does that sound good? Any other questions before we do that? Now, because you're letting them know what's going to happen, it is an invitation for them to throw up any obstacles or objections or hesitations right here, and then you can solve them right here before the price comes up, before you land them on a package and decide pricing. It's going to be 10 times easier to solve the objections and hesitations before the price as opposed to after the price, so that's why we do it right here. We're inviting them. We're basically saying, hey, if you stay here, let's put it in a romantic scenario, and we're going to say, hey, if you stay at my apartment, I'm going to make a move on you. Therefore, if you want to move, if you don't want me to make a move on you, you should leave now, right? Like, if you stay on this sales call, we're going to proceed forward and get you signed up to become a client. If you don't want to sign up to become a client, let me know why right now, right? Let me know your objections, your hesitations, your concerns before we move forward towards proceeding to take the money. I don't want to awkwardly ask you for the money when you still are not sold. So give me any objections or hesitations or fears you have about being sold before I go ahead and reach for your credit card. It's a bomb that you have to disarm versus a bomb you have to clean up after it already explodes. And I call this transition to sold because if they're sold, they'll say, great, let's go pick a package. And if they're not sold, they'll give you the objection, the hesitation, the concern, right? Okay, so let's say that they do have some objections, you handle them, you calm their concerns, and you tie down and say, okay, anything else that's concerning you at all? Or does that kind of cover everything in terms of our implementation timeline that you were worried about? And they say, yes, that covers everything. Drew, I'm good to go. Okay, great. Well, so then, John, there's really just 3 service packages that we have. Let me just go through the details of all 3, and then I'll help you pick the one that makes most sense for Acme Corp. He's going to say, okay, then you're going to go through these 3 service packages. And then another transition is, so John, these are the 3 service levels we have based on what you told me. I suggest you take option 3, which comes in at $54,500. Does that sound like the right one to you? And again, what you've learned from me is that you're tying down on every option you give them. You're giving them a clear yes, no choice at the end of every option you offer them. So you offer them option 3, the Pro package or the Diamond Elite package, whatever it is. Then you say, does the Diamond Elite sound like the right fit based on what I described? And then he says yes. Once he says yes, he's agreeing to be closed. That's why we call this one a transition. We're going from presenting the options to now we're asking for the business, we're running the card. Now, John may still have concerns or hesitations that need to be resolved, but we can't call ourselves a professional salesperson unless we ask for the business. And we've also given them multiple off-ramps throughout the call to bring up their concerns or hesitations before we ask for the final money at the end. You see how that works. These transitions, by the way, are actually the parts of the sales call that you should be practicing more than any other part of the sales call apart from the discovery. Because if you don't have the ligaments, again, in your body, you're screwed. If you don't have the bridges across all the scary waterways, you're not going to get very far in a sales call. So that's why we need to practice these connective tissue transitions. And I'll talk more about that when we get to the section on how to practice your sales calls without a coach. I'll give you the exact frequency of how often you practice different parts of the sales call and where you should focus your attention. But before we get there, for now, if you found value in this section, I'm just going to remind you that you not only need an intellectual understanding of this, you need practice to get this down. You need to scar your brain with the practice of these different components of the sales call. So the best place to practice them is in a community of practice, which I happen to have in my school group, Sales Excellence. The link is in the description. So that covers the missing pieces. Again, you have to transition out of discovery into pitch. You have to transition out of pitch into sold. And then you have to transition out of sold into closed, asking for the credit card or asking for the payment order or the invoice or whatever you might have. We're back now with the next section of the training, which is the bulletproof structure of a 40+% converting sales call. And I'm sure you're all very excited for this section because it truly is the structure that makes the difference between someone who can only close at 20%, which is not industry standard, it's industry average, and you don't want to be average, and someone who can close at 40% plus consistently, like the over 24 salespeople I've trained to close at that level consistently and make over $30,000 per month in commissions. So there's really just 4 sections of the bulletproof 40% converting sales call, and you need these 4 sections. I've tried every which way, multiple attempts and experiments to try to remove different sections of the sales call or put them in a different order, and I've never found any structure that's better than this bulletproof structure. And these are the 4 sections you need with no exceptions in every single sales call, B2B or B2C. You need some kind of status and frame to start the call, which I've trained you earlier in this video. You need some kind of discovery and pain dive, which is either the goal or the pain or ideally both. You need some kind of summary and pitch, as we've just talked about the transition pieces and summarizing each part of the call. Obviously, this is where you share your services or how you're going to get them to their goal or how you're going to alleviate or remove their pain. And you need some kind of transition and close and negotiation piece. So what we're going to go into now is a 101 training video that covers all of these sections and the minimum viable parts of each one of these sections. Let's go to that now.
Welcome to the training, ladies and gentlemen. I am Drew Long. I'm going to be taking you through this Quick Start Sales Training 101. If you watch no other sales training video, watch this one. Now, as I go through this document, you are going to have access to it as well. I'm going to link this Gamma doc down below this video, pull it up alongside, and there's going to be parts where I skim over some in-depth sections. You can go into those more in depth on your own. That being said, let's dive right in. Sales, at the end of the day, guys, is a simple game. The other side that you're going to be sitting across from in B2B sales or B2C sales, generally they know how sales works. They're interested in testing you to identify if you actually have the skills to solve their problem. From your side, on the other hand, you need to convey your expertise, your ability to solve their problems without being thrown off by their posturing or their bluffing or anything negative they send your way. Now, I have taken, I've made, I've designed, and I've reviewed over 10,000 sales calls in my experience in sales. So I can tell you there's a near universal framework for every sales call, no matter the product or industry, B2B or B2C, they all follow the same basic framework. 4 sections: qualifying, discovering and eliciting the problem or the pain, presenting your solution, and negotiating on terms. This is a simplification that leaves out a lot of nuance, but the framework is going to hold you in good stead if you do nothing else. So, section 1, let's dive into qualifying. The first step with any prospect is qualifying or disqualifying them from being a fit for your service. There's a few basic criteria that every prospect should have to meet in order to receive a proposal from you. You're going to qualify or disqualify them before you propose or present your service or product. 4 things: do they have the problem you solve? Do they have the money to pay for your solution? Do they want the problem solved now? And is their company in a position where it can make a decision to move forward with a solution? Now, for B2B, you can address these questions, these qualifying questions, with a type form, with a Calendly intake form. You can do a qualifying call. You can have a setter or an SDR reach out to the prospect and qualify them, or any other type of mechanism, but you must have a qualifying mechanism. At the very minimum, you should pair some kind of pre-call questionnaire with making the qualification questions the foundation of the discovery section of your sales call. So again, qualifying is the first stage. Typically, that's done before they even get on the phone with you. If you have a small team or you're just starting out, what you're probably going to do is wrap the qualifying questions into your discovery questions, of which more in a moment. Now, we're going to expand these and just show you there's a little bit more. Don't lie to yourself on this one. If they have the problem you solve, great. If not, move on. They need to be a close match. Don't try to just sell everything to everyone, because then you're going to get in a problem where you're not getting good results. Do they have the money? You need to make sure they have the money. And the qualifying question here is getting them in the ballpark. Our solution is 6 to 10K, depending on exact specifications. Is that in the ballpark? If no, disqualify, move on to the next prospect. If yes, they're qualified, book the meeting or continue with the meeting. If it's a maybe, dig deeper and drive them either to a yes or a no. Now, I have some more math here on ROI. Having the money to pay for your solution in B2B relies heavily on ROI. If you can show them through a calculator or other methodology that they are going to ROI pretty hard adopting your solution, it's going to be a much more easy sale. You have a logical sale at that point. So there's some examples here. Like if they only charge $500 per unit they sell and your solution costs them $2,000, then they'd have to sell at least 4 units to even pay back their initial investment. That's going to be a hard sell, unless you're guaranteeing they're going to sell 12 units within 30 days or something like that. On the other hand, if they sell each unit for $5,000 and your solution costs them $5,000, then if they sell even 1 unit, they've made back their initial investment. If they sell 2 units, they've doubled their investment. So you always want to aim for a 5 to 10x ROI from your total investment to their total return. In other words, the money they pay to you, they should get 5 to 10 times that money back as part of taking on your product or service. And there's some more math here that you go through on your own, but the basic idea is 5 to 10x ROI is what you should be aiming for. Do they want to solve the problem now? It's very common for companies and people to kick the can down the road on problems they have indefinitely. The company has to have a reason to solve the problem now, urgently, otherwise it's a waste of time to talk to them. And you need to be very good at asking them in discovery and getting them to commit. Like, why would you solve this now as opposed to waiting for the future or 6 months from now or 2 years from now? And then is the company in a position where it can move forward with a decision? Now, if a prospect wants to solve the problem, but the rest of the company doesn't agree, you're also wasting time. This is tricky since prospects often bluff in order to make it appear as though the company's behind them. You need to skillfully dig into their answers to discern this. A lot of prospects, especially in bigger companies, want to appear busy. They'll get on sales calls. They'll be gathering information to see if maybe there's a solution out there, but the company isn't really behind them. It isn't really committed. And you have to be very sharp and pointed and direct in your questioning to ascertain if that is in fact the case. So that is qualifying. And the idea here is if they don't have the problem you solve directly, have the money on hand, cash on hand to pay for it, need to solve the problem urgently, and have the ability to pull the trigger urgently, you should not be on a sales call with them. Be absolutely ruthless with this, guys and gals. If they do not qualify, do not talk to them. You are wasting your time. You don't need practice. You can practice with a role play partner for the sales calls. You don't need experience. You can get experience from a role play partner for the sales calls. If they are disqualified, do not get on the phone with them. Let's move on to discovery. Now, the most simple version of discovery is the following question. What is the difference between your current state and your desired end state, and what has prevented you from closing that gap before now, and why is it important to close the gap now? You're not going to ask that question directly. You're going to ask a variety of questions that get at that, and I've got a whole question bank below. What's your overall goal? What have you tried so far? What obstacles have you experienced in trying to 2x your revenue? How long has this been going on? How long has this been a priority? What stopped you from achieving your goal before now? Who else in the company has a stake in this? What's important to them? Where would you like your company to be in 12 months? What's most important to you? Who else needs to know about this? What do you see as the next best steps? What's the situation over there right now? And many other questions. So pull up the Gamma Doc, go through these questions, and pull out the questions that make the most sense for you in your presentation. What you're going to want to do is organize these questions roughly into sections that have to do with the following 4 categories: budget, authority, need, and timing. If you're seeing a theme, you're right. The budget, authority, need, and timing questions are very similar to the qualifying question. Do you have this problem? Do you have the money for it? Do you want to solve it now? And can you make a decision? So let's go into those criteria now. These are not in chronological order. You don't have to first ask budget and then ask authority and then ask need and then ask timing. You can ask them in any order, but you do need to nail them all down on every single qual. For a call to be qualified, for you to have done a complete discovery, you need to nail down these 4 areas. And this is not an exhaustive list, and by no means should you ask all these questions in your discovery. So let's look at budget. Do they have the budget? Is it important to invest? Why or why not? What are the competitors for those budget dollars? Did the budget align with what you're charging? Under what circumstances would they pay more than their budget? Budgets are meant to be broken. Are there guarantees you can give them? Are there additional products or service you can offer them that will make the asking price palatable? What's the actual outcome you're offering to them regardless of the budget? What is the ROI? What is the risk reversal? Those are all good budget questions. Authority questions. Do they have the authority to pull the trigger themselves? If not, who does? Who else needs to be involved? What is their buying process and or buying committee? Do they have the leadership skills to purchase, or do they need you to exert strong leadership skills to guide them through a buying process? Most smaller businesses will need you to have very strong leadership skills. You need to guide them through your buying process. If you get to bigger companies, they will have their own buying process. But it's okay, because if you assert yourself very strongly at the beginning and you start taking them through your buying process, they will stop you and say, that's not quite how we do things here. We have a committee. We have a procurement process. We have a procurement and legal department. You'll have to submit to them, blah, blah, blah. And then you can just jump through the hoops. But with smaller companies, you won't really have hoops to jump through. And the greater danger is not having a strong buying process and procedure, because when you don't, then they disappear into the ether and you never hear from them again. So look at these questions in detail and prepare yourself to deal with them and build them into your buying process or your selling process. The need. Do their goals match your solution? Don't fib or get imaginative. It does or it doesn't. Don't fail to disqualify those who don't need what you sell. Don't change what you sell on the fly to fit their needs. Desperation for money, especially as you're starting out in business, will drive you to sell anything to anyone, but this will lead to ruin as your work becomes unfocused and you will become unable to deliver a focused result to one ICP. Only sell to those who actually have that exact matching need for what you can unquestionably deliver. Violating this rule will lead you to misery. You have been warned. If you are getting on sales calls and you're feeling like, oh, I could help this person in this way, I could help this other person this other way, you don't have a business yet. You have some skills that you're applying piecemeal as an independent contractor. A business is a specific solution focused with a unquestionable deliverable that you can deliver over and over and over again, rinse and repeat process. If you don't have that yet, you don't have a business. So work on that. Timing. Is this urgent for the company or the person? Why? Why not? Why are they looking to make a change now? Why not wait 6 months to a year? What prompted them to reach out to you or respond to your cold outreach or start the search? What happens if they continue to go with this need unmet for 3, 6, or 12 months? What are the consequences of a good solution, a poor solution, a partial solution, or no solution? What state will that leave the company in? Is that an acceptable state to be in? Really clear discovery will leave open the possibility that maybe the company doesn't need to change anything at all. Maybe they're going to get the goal without your help. Is that truly okay? Are they 100% certain they're going to hit the goal without outside help? Are they 90% certain, 50% certain? What's the percentage? Don't be afraid to put people against the wall and push them back with really direct questions. Direct questions are what actually gets you sales, because your prospect will realize that they don't know as much as they thought they knew, and they will realize that you are an expert and that you can provide a solution. So be very precise on timing. We'd like to double our revenue this year. Well, what do you mean by you'd like to? Is it a must-have or is it a nice-to-have? What happens if you do double? What happens if you don't? What happens if you 1.25x instead of 2x? What happens if you 1.5x? What's the outcome for you personally, for your department, for the CEO, the CFO, the whole company? What are the outcomes you're looking for? This is the proper place for what's called implication questions, is in the timing section. Don't get overly rigorous about this. You can ask implication questions anywhere throughout this discovery process. Your prospect needs to repeatedly hear themselves saying, we need to do this. It's a real problem. We need the company to agree we need to do this. We have the money. It's worth the investment. We need to do it now. You're the person to do it. Over and over and over again. That is what makes a concrete sales process. If they're not saying any of those things, probably not going to close the deal. So you've adequately need to cover those 4 areas, and then you've completed what's going to be a useful discovery. Now, don't get lost in all these questions above. Remember the one question that I told you. What's the difference between current state, their desired goal? What's prevented them from closing the gap? Why haven't been able to do it on their own? Why is it important for them to close the gap now? And why do they see your solution as the best solution? Once you've answered that question, you need to check and verify that you need to understand their answer 100% correct. Now, I call this summarizing the discovery. Very important. Most people won't teach you this. After you've asked all these questions, or many of these questions, after you've answered this main question, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it now? What's your budget for doing it? Why is it important to do it? Why wouldn't you do it? What would stop you from doing it? Who else needs to be involved in executing? Once you've gotten a really clear picture, you want to summarize it back to them. And you want to say, okay, I think I understand. I think I have all the information I need. Is it all right with you if I just summarize what I've heard so far? And they're going to say, of course it's all right. So you're going to say, so just to summarize, you've been in business for 4 years. You haven't grown as quickly as you'd like to. And now your investors are pressuring you to increase revenue 30% in the next 14 months, or they'll sell the company. You've tried paid ads. You've tried LinkedIn campaigns, conference sponsorships, but nothing has moved the needle consistently. What we're looking for now is consistent cold outreach method that can generate 20 to 30 meetings per month with qualified buyers. Is that pretty accurate, or did I miss anything at all that's important to you? And the answer you're looking for here is yes, you've got it exactly. Short of that answer, you don't have a complete understanding, and you need to go back and dig deeper with the discovery questions. Discovery is not complete until your prospect says, yes, that's exactly it. Now, why am I having you summarize the discovery? You were both on the call. You both heard the discovery questions and answers. No, you need to encapsulate and bring all of their problems down into a short paragraph with 2 to 3 sentences that perfectly encapsulate their current state, their past state, all the actions that led them here, the emotional impact, the revenue impact, the problem that they're having, the trouble that they're in. You need to summarize it like a doctor would summarize. Okay, we'd ordered all these tests. I looked all over, up and down your body, and here's what's wrong with you from the car crash. Here's what we need to fix. Do you agree? Do you want to fix all that? That is exactly what this is. Do you want to fix all that? And do you agree that a surgery and a course of medication is the right way to fix that? That's basically what you're doing here. And they're going to say, yes, okay, that's exactly right. Really important, guys. Discovery is the most important part of the sales call. The prospect themselves often do not know the answers to the questions you're asking, to all these questions. I can't tell you how many times in discovery I've heard, wow, that's a really good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. I have to go get the data on that. And then that actually furthers your sales process, because by getting them to go get the data, now they have homework, and you need to loop their homework into the next step of the sales process, which is collaboratively preparing a proposal on what the treatment is going to be like. But your powerful questions in discovery reveal their ignorance, and thus your discovery becomes a mini therapy session almost, Socratic questioning process that pushes their thinking in new directions, uncovers blind spots, and shapes their strategy in and of itself. Do not skip discovery. Weak discovery kills more deals than any other single factor. Apart from just you not getting deals because you don't have any proof on the internet, you don't exist on the internet, you have no case studies, you have no testimonial, you have a crappy website, you have crappy outreach, right? Obviously, that'll keep you from even getting to phone calls, and it'll kill deals. But short of that, if everything else is in place, getting on phone calls and doing a crappy discovery is going to kill more deals than any other single factor. So if you need to, pause this video right here, go through the discovery questions, and put them into your own document that creates a custom discovery for your service product that covers budget, authority, need, and timing. And make sure you have a qualification mechanism somewhere in there that covers, do they have the problem? Do they have the money to pay you? Do they want the solution now? Is it urgent? And is the company in a position where it can make a decision to move forward expediently? So go ahead and pause the video and go put that together, put that framework together now for yourself. Okay, you're back. That's great. Now, let's take a look at the next section of the sales call, which is presenting your solution. Now, you've learned about 3 pillars by this point, hopefully, and you realize that The presentation should be short. It should be 30 to 90 seconds. Each pillar or element of your product or service should be 1 to 2 sentences at most. The presentation of your solution needs to follow the basic principles that we've already learned. You should have the 3 pillars to make your offering easy to understand because the human mind works in threes. It should be relevant to them and it should bolster confidence that you can deliver the results. The basic idea behind presenting your solution is that it follows another very simple framework. What we do is X. It solves your problem better than other solutions because of these reasons. We found that it's better than alternatives, and our customers have said that they like it because it does X, Y, Z. After they've tried everything else, they've come to us because they've found that our solution is better. Now, does that sound, at least theoretically, like it would be what you need? Now, let me add something here that's going to be really helpful that's not in the Gamma Doc yet, or I'll add it. But basically, you need a transition phrase between ending and summarizing discovery and presenting your solution. And the transition phrase is going to be, after you summarize discovery, is that pretty much accurate or did I miss anything at all? And they say, yes, you've got it exactly. What you're then going to say is, excellent. Shall I go ahead and let you know how I would solve that problem now? Would you like to know how I would address this problem that you've mentioned? Would you like to know how I would address this solution? Would you like to know how we would address the solution to this situation you're in? And they're going to say, yes, of course. It's a permission-based transition. Now, they've given you permission to present and pitch them. If you just go in and pitch them, it's going to feel a little awkward, a little uncalibrated. You want to get permission. So add that transition in and then go into presenting your solution. Now, here's the principles of presenting your solution as follows. Simplicity. Now, you want to get all technical here, but don't do it. You want to be all sophisticated here, don't do it. The true expert makes things as simple as possible, but not simpler. Think E equals MC squared. Make your solution extremely easy to understand for the layman. You want to make it sound so simple that they feel smart hearing it. So that's principle 1. Principle 2 is benefit to them statements. What's in it for them? They don't care how fancy your technology is and about your credentials and how awesome you are. They only care how that's going to help them make more money, save time, save headache. So phrase your 3 pillars in terms of what's in it for them. Don't say, oh, we use spin text to put 34 textual variations into every email so it'll be totally unique. And then we can send much more volume. Say, we use automation to ensure your emails end up in the inbox. So more of your emails end up getting read by your ideal customer, which leads to more booked meetings for you. Do say that because it's about them and it's about the benefit to them. So if you need to, go back now and rewrite your 3 pillars in that format, 1 to 2 sentences each, very simple, with a benefit to them statement ending each one. We do this because of why, and the result of that for you is nice benefit. And then finally, you have to present your pillars in context. You have to present your whole business in context. And when I say context, I mean what you do, why you do it that way, why that's of benefit to them, and why it's better than the other solutions they could pursue in the marketplace. And you have to wrap it all in context when you're giving your presentation. So you say something like, so there's 3 main things we do. First, we'll build a cold email infrastructure that's super easy to manage, so you can contact up to 10,000 people per month from a single easy to manage inbox. It'll only take you 15 minutes a day to manage everything. Second, we use A/B testing to discover the highest converting messages, so you're always sending the most emails that have the highest chance of replies and booked meetings. Does that make sense? After you've been talking for about 30 seconds, you want to check in with them. And you don't want to check in obnoxiously after every pillar, but you do want to check in with them regularly whenever it feels like you've been talking for a while. And the best way to test this, by the way, is to record yourself and watch it back. And notice when your attention starts to waver. You're talking too much, check in with them or shorten it down. Okay, that sounds great. And then finally, we'll make phone calls to everyone who replies with any level of interest, which is probably going to result in 30% more booked meetings for you. That's what we've seen historically. We do it this way because after 5 years of trying every other strategy, we found this gives you the most quality booked meetings for the least time investment. Now, having said all that, does that sound like it has everything you need to get to your revenue goal? That's how you're going to tie off the presentation. So let's again revisit that format and break it down. What we do is X. It solves Y problems. We found that it's better than alternatives because of reasons, and our customers have said that they like this about the approach after trying everything else. Does that sound, at least theoretically, like it would be what you need? So here's some more detail you can go into. Our solution is superior because of proof, and this is where you're backing it up with claims, data, evidence, statistics. You compare to alternatives, and you point out where alternatives are weaker, riskier, more expensive, likelier to fail, less certain, etc. Our solution has a high probability of getting you to your goal because of evidence. So present proof, present evidence. The more proof you can present, the higher their confidence in you. Our solution is preferred by many or smart people. If many average people choose us, or a few but very sophisticated or smart people, we must be doing something right. You'd be going against the crowd to select otherwise. There's a risk of social exclusion if you choose foolishly. There will be much social acceptance if you choose us because of the social status of those who've chosen us before. That's why celebrity testimonials or high status testimonials are so credible. Our solution solves each of your problems systematically. Here's how. And this is where you need to think systematically of all the potential objections, hesitations, fears, or apprehensions your prospect will have about your service, and you have to systematically eliminate them in your presentations through demonstrating with evidence how your solution will solve those problems. So, examples: not tech savvy, we have a no-code environment with hands-on training. Need this tomorrow? We can put an expedited rush order and have an account manager personally make it happen within 24 hours or your money back. Need custom code? Etc., etc. You need to solve each of their objections or hesitations or points with a comprehensive solution that completely collapses that objection. The more you do this in your presentation, the fewer objections you're going to face at the end of the call. The more certainty is raised, the faster your sales cycle will be. And part of it is you will need multiple calls and multiple contacts with the market to even uncover all the hesitations, but you can do a lot of this work in advance. You can sit down and think of all the reasons that objections and hesitations may come up. You can ask ChatGPT or another large language model if they can help you think of solutions or reasons that people would be hesitant to use your product or service. And you can address all of those with some form of guarantee or risk reversal or a way to collapse that concern so it doesn't rear its ugly head on the sales call. Or after they get off the sales call thinking about your product or service, that's when it's really going to hurt you, because then you're not live with them. You can't collapse the concern. At best, they're going to email you, and then you're left playing the email game where anything that you try to write in email is not going to be as persuasive as anything you deliver face-to-face over the phone. So again, the presentation may have many elements, but the basic format for each element needs to be: this element of our product or service will solve the hesitation or concern you have. Here's the proof of the past customers that loved exactly how we do things. And does this sound helpful to you? And that takes us to tying down the presentation. Again, your presentation should be short, 30 to 90 seconds. Each pillar should be at most 1 to 2 sentences. Obviously, the more your product does and the more resources you have built in to help them, the longer this will be. I'm talking here about 3 pillars, right? 3 pillars, each of which are 1 to 2 sentences, and all 3 pillars should be delivered within about 90 seconds to maybe 2 minutes at the most if there's check-ins. If you have a longer, more comprehensive product or service and there's a longer presentation with multiple slides perhaps that are covering different elements of your service, that's fine too, but in that case, each slide should be fairly understandable within 30 to 60 seconds, and you should be able to have a little conversation at the end of each slide, tying them down and saying, okay, do you see how this element of our service will help? Or what are your thoughts on how we do things? Is that something, would you be okay with that criteria? And then getting a yes and tying down on each element of your product or service. So again, tie downs, here's how they sound. Does that sound helpful to you? So that's our package. Does it seem like it would have everything you would need to reach that goal you mentioned? Any concerns at all about how we do things here? Can you think of anything else you'd need to get to that goal? You've heard these called temperature check questions or soft close questions. It's the same thing. They're all getting your prospect to think out loud and share with you their level of agreement with the proposal, whether it's high, medium, or low. Now, sophisticated prospects will avoid answering this question directly, and they will not want to let you see into their mind. More open prospects or less sophisticated prospects who've been on fewer sales calls, who've been pitched less, will be more open and they will share more of their thoughts. But deflections sound like this: oh, this is very interesting. We're going to have to take some time to process it. Looks good. Let me take it back to the team, get their input. I appreciate the proposal. We'll take this under consideration. We'll email you. We're a ways away from making a decision, so we'll have to take this and get back to you. Oh, we've got a team meeting on future date at the end of this month. I'll be able to present this to them then, and then we'll let you know if we want to move forward. The net effect of all these statements is you do not get any information. They're taking your proposal into a black box and they're leaving you with exactly nothing. So here's how to combat that, because this is not where you want to be as a business owner. Here's some examples, and I'm just going to read through 1 or 2 of these and you could read the rest. You'll get the format pretty quickly. Oh, it's all very interesting. We're going to have to take some time to process it all. Oh, sure, you can take all the time you need. I'm just curious though, what parts of it will you be going over in your head to process it all? Will it be the pricing, the terms, the duration? Will it be service component A, service component B, service component D? You want to ask those separately, and you want to wait until they give you something, and then you want to dig deeper. I wouldn't have just spun all that out if I was on the call with a live prospect. I would have said, oh, what parts will you be going over in your head to process it all? Quiet. And they'll say hem and haw, oh, just the whole thing. Oh, cool, yeah, of course the whole thing. But honestly, will it be the pricing? Wait, get their response, get data back from them. Oh, no, it's not the pricing. I just have to kind of review the whole thing. Oh, yeah, totally understand you want to review the whole thing. Just curious, did you have a concern about service component A? Quiet, let them talk, and so on and so forth. Oh, it looks good. Let me take it back to the team and get their input. Oh, of course, I understand you need to share this with the team. But if it was just your decision, though, what would your gut instinct be here? Would it be a yes or a be a no? What's your gut tell you? And so on and so forth. I'll let you read through the rest of these. Now, this takes us to the final process. And we're already getting a little bit into what I would consider negotiating or getting clarity. This part, after you present or as you're presenting your proposal, it's again really about getting your prospect to think out loud with you on the call. Because as long as they're thinking out loud, you can see into their head, you can learn where they're at, and you can help solve concerns or hesitations real time, which is what you want to be doing. Now, final section here, negotiating on the terms. Now, after you've gotten a prospect at least to hypothetically agree that your proposal is a fit, the next step is to agree on terms. Now, this is sometimes called negotiation or objection handling, but negotiating on terms is a much more accurate description of what's actually happening in B2B. You're presenting your price, you're justifying it with the value you provide, the ROI you're expecting, and you're shutting doors to alternatives that they might pursue. They are attempting to throw your solution into question, discredit it, justify the power and efficacy of their current state or alternatives, make their alternatives sound better than they actually are, or bluffing about their current state and their alternatives to minimize the value and therefore the investment they need to place on your solution. Small businesses negotiate a lot more than big businesses, although big businesses may still do it. And consumers, in my experience, generally negotiate very little to not at all compared to businesses, because businesses, it's just business. They're negotiating. They're used to it, especially bigger companies. They're always going to try to grind down their suppliers. Think of Walmart, think of Amazon, right? Using pricing power to absolutely grind down vendors to nothing. Each side is attempting to utilize and maximize their own benefit, the utility they gain at the lowest possible cost. The client wants the best results, the most guaranteed results, the least risk for the least cost. This is their ROI. And you want the most money, and you want the most money up front for cash flow purposes, probably for the least investment of your time and effort. This is your profit or your margin. So remember that kind of teeter-totter. Now, the call is going to either end in an easy sale or a contested sale. An easy sale is pretty straightforward. Again, you're going to go through qualification, discovery, summary of discovery, presentation, transition to close, and you're going to say something like this. So that's our package. Does that seem like it would have everything you need to reach your goals? They're going to say, yep, it looks very good. And you're going to say, great. So as I mentioned, the initial investment to get you to your goal is $6 to $10K. In this case, you'd be looking at $7,500 to start, and then $775 a month after 3 months with that premium ongoing service we discussed. Does all of that sound good? They're going to say, yep. You're going to say, okay, great. Next steps, I'm going to add you to our customer Slack channel. I'll drop you the service agreement for your review and signature. I can walk you through that now so you don't have any questions. Then we're going to take care of the initial payment via Stripe link, and as soon as that's paid, I can schedule your onboarding call. Do you have your email open right now? And then send the Slack invite link. That's a happy path or an easy sale. You will have a few sales that are easy like this at the beginning of your company journey, and then they will rise proportionally the more you have public-facing proof on the internet, and the more you'll have people kind of going through their own conversion cycle before even getting on the calls with you. They'll get on the calls, they'll be way more sold, and they'll just have to be closed. As you're earlier in your career with less proof, you'll have to do more of the selling on the call in addition to the closing. So here's what a contested sale would look like. You say, that's our package. Does it seem like you'd have everything you'd need to reach your goal? And they're going to say, sure, looks pretty good. And then you're going to drop your pricing, and they're going to say, I'm not sure about that pricing. It might work. I'll have to go back and check on that with my team. We want to make sure we can get that in the budget. Let me get back to you. Now, what's common at this stage is for prospects to get off the call and begin negotiations via email. Now, mind you, you always want to book a second call, and you want to build it into your sales process and make it natural to go to a second call. At the end of the first call, you should have some homework, the prospect should have some homework, and the two of you should collaboratively work on getting that homework together. And you should end with something like, all right, sounds like you have some action items. I know I do. Let's see how far we get in the next few days, and let's reconvene. I think I could get you in, let's see, Tuesday. How's Tuesday for you? Try to make it 48 hours out. So you're always going to book a second call from your first call. Never, ever, ever, ever allow them to get off the first call without booking a second call. Book a meeting from a meeting. Bam, bam. If someone is trying to get off a first call without booking a second call, simply confront them and say, hey, at this point, usually folks are trying to move forward in the process with at least some next steps. If that's not the case for you, is this just a no? It's totally okay. You can tell me no. I can take it. It's fine. If this is not a fit, just let us know. I wouldn't want to waste your time or mine. Call them out directly. And oftentimes you'll get a lot more of the objections or the concerns or hesitations out on the table at that point, just by being direct. You have to be direct. But assuming that doesn't happen and they say, okay, yeah, we just have to go back to the team. We have to run pricing through the legal team or the CFO or whatever it is. And you'll be okay. You're going to book your second call. You're going to say, all right, how much time do you need? Or do you think you could get back to with your CFO and get back with me within by Tuesday? Yes, you can. Okay, let's go ahead and book a meeting Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And at that point, they're going to send an invite and they're going to get back on the call with you in a couple days. In the meantime, though, what's going to happen often is they're going to start negotiating via email. They're going to send you an email, say, I talked to the CFO. We really liked what you put together. We do have some questions on pricing. Can you waive your monthly or reduce your upfront, whatever it is? We don't feel comfortable until we have a longer track record of success with your agency. We can reconsider it in the future, whatever it may be. It's pretty common that you're going to get some of these negotiations for concessions, especially as you're starting out, because you won't necessarily have the track record, the reputation. People won't be clamoring and lining up to work with you. You won't have a wait list yet. You're just going to it's going to be pretty obvious that you need prospects, you need clients, you have all the time in the world. And so they're going to try to grind you down on price because frankly, they know they can. So principle for you, number one, never give something without getting something. something. You can do all this stuff. You can waive your monthly fee in exchange for, let's say, a full access in-depth video case study. You can lower your setup fee in exchange for 3 qualified referrals. You can do almost anything that you can think of, almost anything that they want, as long as it leaves you with some operating margin. So this is the foremost pro tip I can give you to guide all future negotiations. Get good at exchanging items of unequal value. If you can give the prospect something they really care about that costs you nothing or very little, you win. So get used to thinking creatively about non-monetary items you can include. And I have included a whole list down here that I want you to read through and get creative and make a list of things that you might be willing to negotiate in order to get a deal done. Remember also, this is another key tip. Services far in the future create a highly favorable impression today, but are extremely unlikely to actually be consumed. So you could promise, hey, unlimited coaching calls up to 36 months from now, and that's going to create a very high perceived value, but it's going to be extremely unlikely that the client sticks around long enough to actually consume your time and your resources on those services. So take a look. This is not a comprehensive list, but it is a list to get you started on thinking of how you can negotiate different parts of your product and service. What I would recommend is when you're going into creating your packaging and pricing, know your margins. Know exactly what you need to make on each deal to be profitable, to have margins, to live, to eat, whatever it is you need. And don't go below that, of course. Don't do a deal where you don't make any money, but do have enough of margin and profit margin built in so that you have some wiggle room, perhaps 10%, perhaps 5%, perhaps it's other items, but do most of your negotiating around non-material, non-monetary items that create more of a higher perceived value, such as a lot of these intangibles in here, but that don't cost you much or that don't eat into your margin. So be able to also honestly ask this question, hey, what do you really care about? How else could we make this deal go right? Help me make the deal go right. I really want to work with you guys, but I just can't do X, Y, Z. The remainder is my profit, and I just have to be able to eat and feed my family. I'm sure you understand, but what else could we do that would make a difference here? How could we make this work? Being genuinely unafraid to lean on your prospect to join you as a full partner in decision-making will make you a powerful negotiator, more powerful than probably 90% of negotiators out there. So in conclusion, sales is a very simple game. It can be broken down in the following 4 stages. Qualification, including disqualification before the call. Discovery, presentation of your product and service, and negotiating on terms. The quality of your sales results will be determined by the quality of your sales process. No process, haphazard results due to chance. Some process, somewhat predictable results, and 100% dialed in process followed 100% of the time, maximally predictable results. Do not leave your business growth to chance. Build a completely solid process and follow it 100% of the time, and you will be rewarded with a consistent increase in results. So go ahead and go through, review this Gamma Doc in detail, and pull out these different components. You have homework. You have to pull out both the qualification and discovery questions that you are going to use for your product and service. Make sure they fall into these 4 categories. You're going to refine your 3 pillars and your presentation to make them conform to context, simplicity, and benefit to them statements. You are going to decide on what you're going to use as tie-down questions after you present, and you are going to decide 3 to 4 different elements of packaging you can use to negotiate on terms. Do that, and that this then becomes your sales process. And then you're going to commit to adhering to it 100% of the time with every prospect, and you're going to make way more money. So I hope this has been helpful.
Boom. Now, if you found that valuable, what you're going to find even more valuable is actually practicing this structure with your own offer or with your own product or service, which can take place, you guessed it, in my school community, my community of practice, where everyone brings their own calls. I break them down once a week, every Friday, live. We'll do a teardown on your calls. We'll do role plays on the particular skills you need. And there's also a lot more content and training on the nuances of various types of offers that you can get access to with the school community. And if you're watching this straight through, you've already observed me asking people to join the school community multiple times. Well, it's because to consider yourself a professional salesperson, you do have to ask for the business multiple times, which is what I'm demonstrating for you on this call. So link in description, go ahead and hit that up right now. I'm going to raise prices on it very soon. And now we're on to the next most powerful section of the call, which is how to crush every objection you could ever possibly face. Let's go there right now. The 29 objections you're going to hear, and I've heard these across B2B and B2C sales across over 12 years. There's probably more, guys, but these are just the first 29, 30 I could come up with. Off the top of my head, the number one most common is probably, I need to think about it. I need to talk about it with my spouse, my partner, my psychiatrist, my cat, dog, friend, goldfish. I can't afford it. It's too expensive. I can't start right now. Timing is not right. We need to show this contract to our lawyer. I need to run this contract by my real estate agent, by my friend, by my dog, by my spirit guide, by my psychologist, by my counselor, by my goldfish. We need board approval. We need to send this to purchasing. We need to talk to other vendors, providers. We need to shop this offer around. We need some time to get our money together. We have a hard stop. We can't be pitched today. We want to sleep on it. We want to pray about it. We never make rash decisions. I want to meditate. I want to marinate on it, like get myself in a plastic bag with a bunch of noodles and spices and really make myself feel this offer. We're not deciding right now. We're thinking about doing X instead. I need a guarantee before I sign up. We need to talk to one of your customers first. We need to talk to 5 of your customers first. I need to go to all your customers' homes and see how they decorate their homes and see if they're actually good people first. Let us discuss as a team first. We need to take all this info to the CEO and have him review this entire call recording. Can you send it over? Because he's definitely going to watch it in 1x speed because he's not busy at all. We're just gathering information today. We're not buying today. We need a couple of days to review all this information. I think you guys are a scam. I'm afraid I'll fail at this program. What if it doesn't work? I'm afraid I won't have time for this. Okay, those are just 29 assorted objections you'll hear at various levels of frequency. The real problem, guys, is decision avoidance. None of these objections are real objections. They're all attempts to forestall and avoid making a decision. Because as Grant Cardone taught me over 15 years ago, people are a lot more insecure about their decision-making ability than they are about their money. People are a lot more secure and confident about their ability to make money than their ability to make decisions. All of us, even if you have multi-million dollars in the bank, are insecure about your ability to make good decisions because everyone's had a good decision that felt great, go wrong, and bite them in the you-know-where, which is not a good feeling. So, of course, as humans, we endeavor to avoid negative feelings of ever happening to us again, which is, of course, impossible. Impossible? Impossible? Same thing. The majority of these objection handles outside of straight negotiation attempts are very simple. The buyers aren't saying no to you. They're saying, I don't want to make a decision, Drew. I did a recent evaluation for one of my clients of 35 lost deals, and fully 34% of them, the vast majority, the plurality, fell into this category of decision avoidance, which was bigger than any other single category. The second biggest was shopping competitors, which was only 14%. So this is a pretty huge category. So decision avoidance is your number one obstacle in sales. How do we beat it? By something I call decision architecture. So we first have to ask, why are people avoiding decisions? It's because they could be wrong and nobody likes being wrong. Because they see the risk of changing as higher than the risk of staying the same. Because they are uncertain. Sales, therefore, is a process of reducing uncertainty and increasing certainty until they buy. Here's the analysis, by the way, of the not closed deals that I think you guys will feel interesting. The salesperson in this study, number one thing they did was they accept stalls as valid outcomes. This is all in the category of we need a few days, we need to take this back to the team, we need to look it over, we need to think about it. Those are all stalls. They're not valid outcomes. Number two is losing control of the timelines, where the prospect would say something like, oh, we're not ready to start until Q3. And the salesperson would accept that and say, okay, well, let me call you back in Q3. Wrong. Not correct. Not correct. The third would be treating objections as facts instead of just signals and data to do further processing on. The fourth would be they scheduled a lot of follow-up meetings, which is not by itself bad, except if you go to it without attempting to solve the problem that's causing them to schedule follow-up meetings in the first place. 5 would be they underestimated the prospect's desire to buy. Prospects can't display too much overt excitement when buying your product or service. Is uncool, and nobody wants to be uncool. They want to be a cool buyer and be like, all right, well, I suppose we could give you guys a shot. I guess we might give you potentially the luxury of proving yourselves to us. And they want to stay in that frame. And if you let them stay in that frame, they will often buy. But they really do want to buy because everyone wants to solve their problem. Everyone wants to make more money, right? You're probably selling more leads, more sales, more opportunity, or cost savings in your business. And every business wants those things. So just be assured, people want to buy those things, so let them buy those things. And then 6 would be allowing logistical challenges to derail the sale. Logistical challenges are just logistical challenges. They're not reasons that they won't buy. They're just problems they're handing you for help solving that are going to allow them to actually take possession of your product or service. So don't be fooled into thinking logistics will kill the deal, because they don't have to kill the deal. So I'm going to give you guys now the Elite Closer Playbook. This is what 40% plus closers do to close at 40% plus. So here's the pattern. What 40% closers do that's different from average closers that only close at 20% or thereabouts is they see stalls for what they are, which is requests for more certainty. Then they go about providing what's being asked for below the surface, not on top of the surface. So they don't actually respond to the stalls, they respond to the uncertainty, and they provide more certainty, which actually clears the stalls out of the way. They stay in control of the buying timeline. They treat objections as information and data and use them as leverage to get more information from the prospect. They refuse to schedule follow-up meetings unless you have truly exhausted every other decision-making power you have. They assume the prospect wants to buy and just needs more help from you, and then they provide that help. And they refuse to allow logistical reasons to derail the sale. The 5-step elite response to any objection. Number 1, briefly acknowledge what was said. I understand, or I hear ya, or heard. 2, pivot. 3, ask questions to get the prospect to bring up the real problem. Isolate, also, that's another way of saying isolate. 3, ask questions to get the prospect to bring up the real problem. It's isolation. So, John, are you telling me that if money was no object, you guys would already be moving forward? Okay, so, John, you're telling me that if the calendar lined up perfectly, you guys would already be moving forward into implementation. Isolation. 4, solve the problem the prospect brought up. Oh, okay. So then how would you imagine we could solve this implementation calendaring issue to get you guys started earlier so you can go on to 5xing your business? 5, return to the decision by handing ownership of the problem back to the prospect. Remember, your prospects are creative, resourceful, and whole. The answers are within them. You just have to be good enough with a shovel to dig those answers out of them. Here is the sub 40% conversion pattern of the whole call. This is what 20% conversion closers are doing. So if you recognize this pattern, it might be because you're a 20% converting closer and you don't fully have the structure you need. They do a build rapport, then discovery, then pitch. The prospect shows interest, the prospect hesitates. The seller relieves the pressure, follow-up scheduled, deal drifts, and eventually dies in your pipeline. The over 40% elite pattern is discovery, uncovering of tension, why you need this urgently, and you can't survive without it. Path to release the tension is revealed, which is your thing. John, if we gave you the ability to contact all of your leads within 60 seconds, would that help the problem of over 80% of your leads not showing up to calls? Well, yeah, I think it would. All right. Well, then what would you like to do next? Seller refuses to relieve the tension. Seller hands ownership of the problem to the prospect, meaning you told me you have this problem. It looks like we might have a solution. What would you like to do next? Well, I suppose I'd like to get your solution, Drew. All right. Well, then here's how you would do that. Do you want to take those steps? I suppose I have to. That's correct. If you want to solve your problem, you must take steps to solve your problem. QED, that is kind of how the world works. Prospect releases tension by buying or admits they don't want to solve the problem. Imagine this conversation. You are 40 pounds overweight. What would you like to do about that? Well, I don't know. Maybe you could tell me what you could do about that. Well, I can't do anything about it, Sean. Ultimately, you're in control of the food that goes into your mouth and how many times you go to the gym every week or how many steps you take per day. It's your problem. Now, we have a method that's worked for a lot of people to drop 40 pounds over the next year, but it's up to you whether you want access to that method. It's not the only method. You could drop 40 pounds many ways. We just happen to have an extremely successful track record of helping people drop 40 pounds. So what would you like to do? I would like to try your method. Are you sure? I think so. Well, you think so? Are you sure? I mean, why wouldn't you try our method? Oh, well, it costs money. Yeah, that's correct. It costs $5,000. Oh, that's a lot of money. Well, I don't know. Is it worth it? 40 pounds, $5,000? Is it worth it for you to have that 40 pounds of weight off? I don't know. It's up to you. Continuously handing the tension back to the prospect and forcing them to resolve their own problem. Again, prospects are creative, resourceful, and hold. We have to hand the tension back, hand the problem back over and over and over again. Decisions made by you will not be stuck to. Most decisions made by the prospect will not be stuck to. They won't even stick to their own decisions. The only chance they have of sticking to their own decisions is if they fully take ownership of their own decision. And the only way they can be doing that is if you are continuously handing the decision back to them over and over again. I really want to get this program so I can drop the 40 pounds. Are you sure? I'm 100% sure. But why though? Because it's been too long and I know that I'm pre-diabetic and I'm not going to make it to my daughter's 18th birthday. I'm never going to walk her down the aisle if I die before she turns 18. And that's 18 years away. All right. That sounds like a pretty strong reason. It's going to be hard though, John. It's not going to be easy. No, I know. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. You know, a lot of people have told me they're ready and a lot of people don't do it. No, I'll do it though. I'm going to do it, Drew. I promise you. All right. So if I sign you up today, I have your word that you're going to make it all the way through the 6-week program. You have my word. I'm going to do it, Drew. All right. I use weight loss because it's such a simple and emotional and tiny decision window that people make on a B2C level. But B2B is the same type of decision structure. It's the same type of buyer psychology. It just plays out over a much longer time frame. And the reasoning is much more logical than emotional, right? Instead of a daughter's 18th birthday, we're talking about the consequences of your business not growing, or the consequence of your business not going public, or the consequence of your business not getting funding, or running out of funding, or running out of runway, or whatever it is, right? It's going to be different for every application, but the whole point is the same. You have to continuously hand the responsibility back to the prospect. Again, as a salesperson, your job is not to release the tension, The 20% closers are always releasing tension. They're saying, that's okay, that's understandable. Hey, it's totally understandable. You'd have to talk to your boss. It's totally understandable. You guys have to think about this. It's a big decision. It's a lot of money. I agree with you. It's totally fine. Affirming the stalls and objections, affirming the lack of confidence in decision making, releasing the tension. Your job is not to release the tension caused by the sales call. Your job is to bring the tension up to a high level and then not release it. The only person that can release the tension is your prospect. You need to hand them the authority, the responsibility to release their own tension that you've brought up in the sales call. You get paid in direct proportion to how much tension you can sustain on the call. You have to be able to hold the tension in your body and your mind. Just sit there. It's uncomfortable. Doesn't matter. Just sit there. It's uncomfortable. That's fine. That's the whole point. You have to be able to sustain the tension and not release it. It's worth noting, and this is something I've noticed, that we sell with logic and justify with emotion. Prospects use emotion to appear sold and then escape accountability and release tension using logic. For example, they'll say, I'm totally sold. This is great. We're definitely going to move forward with this. That's the emotional sale that they're doing on us as salespeople. Because as salespeople, we're very sensitive to buying signals. And we're very sensitive to rejection. Like, it doesn't feel good to be rejected. I don't care how long you've been in sales, but it does feel very good to have someone affirm your sales skill and your product and service and say, I'm going to buy, Drew. This is awesome. I'm stoked to buy. But notice then what they do is they will escape off the phone using logic. Like, oh, but I don't have my card with me. Or, oh, I just ordered a new business card. It isn't here yet. Or, oh, I need to transfer some money. These are logical reasons to get off the phone and avoid making the ultimate commitment and decision, which is putting money down. So you'll see this a lot of times when you have salespeople that are skilled in following this structure, but they don't really have a handle on the emotional conversion yet. They haven't really handed the tension over. They haven't really put the tension fully on the prospect's shoulders. And so the prospect has logically agreed, I want to buy this. This is the right thing. It's the right solution for me. But they haven't emotionally agreed. So now they're going to escape off the call using logic, the logic of usually around money or moving money. Or I'm just waiting for some funds to settle, then I'll pay, right? That's a logical escape hatch. And it works on a lot of salespeople because logically it appeals to the logic. And the salesperson feels that they're sold. Like, oh, I won this business. Emotionally, I feel good. I'm already getting my dopamine drip of I made a sale. So of course, logically, I'll let them have their funds settle. And I'm going to tell my manager, this one's in the bag. We're just waiting for funds. It's 2 to 3 days. It's fine. It's coming through. Go ahead and pay me the commission already. But then it never happens because what happened to you is you got sold. You got sold emotionally, and the prospect used logic to escape the responsibility of paying. These logical and logistical problems are usually just attempts by the prospect, their last-minute gambits, to kill the deal without overtly saying no, without overtly confronting, I feel scared. I'm very afraid to let go of this money. Even though I think logically your solution will help me, I'm still not emotionally convinced to put this money in your bank account as opposed to mine in order to get your solution. They are attempts to break the purchase momentum. You'll also see this with a lot of great salespeople who are great at creating purchase momentum, and then the prospect feels like they have to slam on the brakes and stop this at the very last minute. Well, this is what they're doing. They're using logical escape hatches to get out of the purchase momentum. As soon as someone leaves the call, right, their brain switches from action mode to evaluation mode. And in B2C sales, evaluation mode is what kills deals. What they are trying to do is find any reason to get off the call logically that doesn't break the relationship so that they can then go scare themselves with reviews or scare themselves with stories of other people that have failed at this exact thing, or go talk to some other vendors, or go do some more research. Maybe there's a software solution that includes this, but not that, and it's cheaper, right? And then ultimately that all leads back to inaction and not solving the problem. So what elite closers do is when people bring up these logical reasons to get off the phone, to wait, they just solve those problems. Like, oh, no problem, we can do ACH. Just pull up the app on your phone. Let's look at your banking app right now and let's get this done. Or, oh, no problem, did you know we could do credit card? Or, no, you can send the money right now through that link. I'll just send it to you in the chat window. It's very easy. Or, perfect, let's lock in your approval with a deposit, and then we can take care of the rest of the payment in a few days when the funds have transferred, right? We can just solve these logical problems on the fly. And if people really hesitate, when you provide a logical path forward, they're going to provide a logical path block. And then when you provide a rerouting around that block, that's when they're really going to have to confront their unwillingness to move forward. And then you can get back into objection handling and really helping them deal with their lack of confidence, which is really what you need to deal with at this point. Again, the decision is the sale. The money is the close. So make sure you're making a distinction on your calls between what's happening on a sales level, which is making the decision, and a money level or a close level, which is the money that they give you. Elite closers live by this rule. The call where the pitch happens is the call where the decision happens. You don't want to separate too much in time the pitch, meaning here's how we can solve your problem, and the decision, which is do you want our help with this solution solving your problem or not? The money part you can take care of separately, but you need to make sure they're sold before you go on to the logistics of the money. The way to look at this in a B2B environment is you're winning a deal, even if it takes you 3 months to get the purchasing approval, the legal, the buying committee to sign off, etc. You can make a sale on the very first call or that call with a champion, and then it could take 3 months to get everything through, but you have to make sure that you're doing everything right to get the sale made there. Now, we went a little deeper than expected on discovery or on objection handling there, but that's a good thing, right? You learn more than you bargained for. Now, again, if you want to understand this beyond just the intellectual level and get it practically into your bones, you need to join my community of practice, which is the school community, which is the first link in the description. Now, to further extend this, we're going to look at the next module, which is objection handling is a myth. And we're going to go into that right now.
It's your sales coach, Drew, and today I want to present to you a little something I call objection handling as a myth and what to do instead. I heard some of y'all were struggling with objection handling, and I want to introduce to you this concept that I learned from Hormozi, where we have to change how we think about objections. You all are dealing with objections after you say the price at the end of the call. That is not where you should be dealing with objections. You should be dealing with objections early in the call because you figured them out in discovery, you flushed all the real objections, and at that point they're obstacles, and you have the entire call to deal with them. Once you've shared the price and you've sort of put pressure on them to make a decision, now they're going to take an objection, an obstacle, and turn it into an objection. An objection is a ticking time bomb. It takes 30 seconds. You only have 20 seconds maybe to rebuttal it or to deal with it. So don't handle objections. We're going to teach you in this training how to create conditions that make buying easy by flushing out any potential obstacles or deal stalls or deal killers early in the first part of the call in the discovery so that you don't have to deal with them after you share the price. Now, a word to the wise. Cool objection overcomes and rebuttals are really sexy and they're really nice. And it's like, ooh, zinger, got him. Like, oh, what a fire line. But that's not really how real sales are consummated. Real sales are consummated by professionals who have already done this 1,000 times and have thought through every possible logical outcome of the call and have already arranged a happy path through the call and are skillfully guiding their prospect in that happy path. That's a true professional salesperson. They're able to predict the future of the call, and because they're able to predict the future, they've designed an easy path to go through that gets them to the outcome that they want, or that the outcome that best serves the prospect and serves them, that serves them both equally. It's like being a video game designer. You lay out paths you want your character to travel in the video game. That's the same thing we're doing here. Okay, so let's get into it. I wrote a lot of words for you guys. I'm going to share the Gamma doc down below, but I'm going to buzz through this so you guys can get the sauce. So obstacles are 10 times easier to solve than objections. You want to flush the obstacles early in the call in the discovery section. That's what we're going to do. So all major objections and obstacles that you guys are reporting to me are going to fall into 3 main categories. It either has to do with timing, real or imagined. It either has to do with confidence or it has to do with authority or the lack of authority. So if someone says, oh, we don't like the price, that, believe it or not, is an issue of confidence. Because if they were 100% confidence you could do what you said you were going to do, they wouldn't have a problem with the price. If they're telling you, oh, we can't do anything yet, it's not the right quarter, that's a timing issue, real or imagined. If they're saying we've got to go discuss it as a team or with the CFO, that's an authority issue. If they say, oh, we're interviewing other vendors, we'll let you know, that's a confidence issue. A few brief words. If they're trying to negotiate you down on price, that's a confidence issue. Think to the reverse. If you were a famous person like Alex Hormozi and you showed up and said, I can add 100K to your bottom line every single month because I'll personally work in your business because I have this multi-billion-dollar portfolio of businesses I work with that I've already done this with. Pretty much everyone's going to buy. There's not a lot of objections to that because if you've been following Hormozi for 5 years and you would love to have him work in your business, you jump at the chance. Same thing here. Lack of confidence in your business is based on the fact that they don't know you, you're not famous, they've never worked with you before, there's no track record, and remember, business owners have to be fundamentally conservative because there's a huge risk. If they're not careful with their money, they're going to make costly mistakes that might be existentially threatening, that might kill their business, and they don't want to do that. So we're going to deal with confidence issues in a second. Timing. Concept of timing can, but usually doesn't present legitimate obstacles. Now, yes, some companies legitimately do begin a research phase a quarter before they're ready to start an implementation, but you will win deals that you've worked on for 2 to 12 months, and that's why we follow up until one of us dies. But Don't allow yourself to be bamboozled by prospects who smokescreen you with made-up timing issues. This training is going to show you how to avoid all that. And then lack of authority. You are often talking to someone who does not have the final authority and the final say. And people will lie about this in two ways. This is other ways that prospects will gaslight you. They will lie about it by saying, no, I am not the final authority, when in fact they are. Oftentimes, the people with decision-making power will try to gaslight you to make you believe they're not the decision-making person, because they still don't want to make the decision, and they still want to retain control of their buying process and their time. And sometimes the people who don't have any decision-making process or power will try to gaslight you and lie to you and say that they are, because their ego is small and they don't want to be ego hurt on the call. So here's how we solve each of these three problems. For timing, we add urgency and scarcity, two different things, and I'll take you through both. For confidence, we add proof, we interrogate doubt. And for lack of authority, we interrogate authority and we add process. So let's talk about this. Beating timing constraints with urgency and scarcity. Now, you're going to hear things like this. We already have a contract with another vendor. We have a different software platform. We're just in the info gathering stage. We need to review all this information internally before we make a decision. We're interviewing a lot of different vendors. We're putting together a spreadsheet. Everything needs to be approved by the CFO. They're on vacation. We don't have a budget. We will in 6 months. We'll start then. Now, some timing constraints are very real, but you want to do 100% of everything you can do in your own power. The goal here is you want to have an honest conversation with them. You want to penetrate through their smoke screens, and you want to address legitimate timing issues with process solutions. Basically, don't let the prospects gaslight you. Okay, so let's talk about urgency versus scarcity and how and when to use both. So, bottom line, urgency is about them, scarcity is about you. So urgency is the cost of an action, what they stand to lose or gain, and usually both, by taking action now versus waiting on it. So for example, they're not switching their email flows to Klaviyo. It's costing them $90K a month. They want to wait 6 months. So the cost of an action, $90K times 6, $540,000, over $500,000 in revenue. That's a pretty compelling reason that most business owners would want to take action on. But here's the key. In eliciting the cost of an action, you cannot articulate the cost. If you say, oh, let me do the math here for you, 6 months, $90K a month, $500,000, they will not believe you. They will poke holes in your logic. They will resist you because they will feel trapped by your logical argument, and nobody likes feeling trapped by a logical argument. You have to ask them questions so that they arrive at the logical conclusion on their own, which they will then view as airtight and inescapable. So you might ask them, oh, okay, so how much do you think conservatively the Klaviyo revenue is you're missing? Oh, $90K a month. Okay, and how many months did you want to keep doing this then? Oh, 6 months. Gosh, so I guess what's the total cost there? 6 times 90? What's the total cost there? Let them arrive at the conclusion. When they say it out loud, they will be convinced. The prospect believes what they hear themselves say 100 times more than what they hear you say. So you better make them say the most important part out loud. Now, I teach this to people, and people still, because they are so keyed in to trying to get the logic across, people will still make the mistake of saying the logic themselves. You must resist your urge to say the logic yourself. I know it feels really cool to be the guy who gives them the cost of an action, but you cannot be that guy or girl. You have to ask them. They have to arrive at that conclusion on their own and say it out loud. Now, that's urgency. You should be using urgency on every call. Scarcity is about your availability. In addition to cost of an action, which is piling up real money, scarcity is that you cannot necessarily service all the clients in the world. They need to act sooner because of your availability. Now, obviously, don't make up false scarcity. That's unethical, and that's not going to work for you long term. What you should be doing is sit down monthly and list out all the choke points and the very real constraints on your team. Even if it's just you, the acronym team means time, energy, attention, and money. You all have constraints on your team, whether you have 1 people or 75 employees. Not only so you can design your business to be more operationally effective, but also so you can share these very real bottlenecks with your customers so they realize that your team is scarce, and if they want your solution, they better jump at the chance. Obviously, you want to improve your business and your team over time, which is why you should sit down and look at your team and their bottlenecks once a month, and put in plans to change that. But you should also then be bringing those bottlenecks onto your sales calls so people know about them. So it might sound like, hey, so we're right about to the limit of clients we can service in the next quarter. If you want to get started, you would have my team's full attention and effort at solving this problem. We can take on 1 more client where we're giving the full service here. The next client I sign up after would have to be some kind of fractional service. I'm actually going to have to go down in what I do until we are able to staff up. So that would be an additional reason for someone to jump on now versus waiting for 6 months. So that's how you bring in scarcity and urgency. Use them both. Now, let's talk about low confidence. using proof and using interrogation of doubt. So there's really one key thing operating here. When confidence in the outcome rises above doubt, people will buy. If they have high doubt, they won't buy. If their confidence in the outcome is low, as it goes up, then they will buy. Here's the purchase point right here where it crosses over. This is why we use case studies, because they do this. They increase their confidence in the outcome. This is why a case study with an industry like theirs or a company like theirs is so much more powerful, because it increases their confidence in the outcome. Now, obviously in CA, we emphasize case studies a lot, so I'm not going to go into that part of the training. I'm going to go into a different segment that you probably haven't learned before, which is interrogation of doubt. And this is also what you should use if you only have one case study or none. So interrogation of doubt is simply asking the question, do you have proof that I can't create the results I've promised? Prospect can say no, because they don't have proof. It might feel like a sleight of hand, but it's actually sound logic, because for someone to have confidence they can do something, they need either or both of the following things. Positive proof that you have the skills to accomplish a task, meaning you've done it before, or a lack of proof that you cannot accomplish a task. And they're equally powerful. So it works this way in business. If you have even one case study and the prospect has 0 case studies demonstrating your failure, the balance of proof rests with you. And the balance tips more and more the more you have case studies. This is why it's so damaging, by the way, to have negative reviews online about you. If you have negative reviews, that acts as a negative case study, saying, I tried this, it didn't work for me. What do you think the ratio is between negative reviews to positive reviews? It's probably worse than 10 to 1. Even if you have 10 positive reviews and case studies, if you have one person online saying that your thing doesn't work, you probably need to double the amount of positive reviews to outweigh that one negative. So be, first of all, extremely cautious about your reputation on your online reviews. And second of all, work really hard to get overwhelming abundance of positive case studies. So you can interrogate doubt in yourself, if they have doubt in the process, if they have doubt in how this would work for them, if the industry would work for it, whatever it is. Do you have proof that I can't create the results I've promised? Do you have any reason to believe that this process, which has worked for so many other people and businesses, wouldn't work for you? Can you think of any special reason that your company would be immune to the effects of better marketing? Or whatever your solution is. Imagine you're selling gym memberships, you're trying to get people to lose weight and also create a minor caloric deficit by exercising a little bit more. You would ask them, well, can you think of any reason why your body would be immune to the laws of thermodynamics? It's the same thing. That's interrogating doubt. So you can interrogate their lack of belief in you, the product, the process, the timing, the likely reaction of prospects and customers in the market. It's a powerful tool. Start using it today. So you can also then solve lack of authority by adding process and interrogating authority. So as I mentioned, you're going to get on calls all the time with people that are not the decision makers and are pretending like they are, or people that are decision makers and are pretending like they're not. So what are you going to do then? You can't call them a liar to their face, because then that'll definitely affect your close rate negatively. What you need to do is add the two things, interrogate authority and add process. So here's how it would sound. When you're interrogating authority, you're asking questions like, and how do you guys usually make decisions over there? Now, I have been preaching this in my coaching calls for months, and I have been telling people to do this individually for months, and I have still barely ever heard it on a recorded sales call that you guys submit to me. So you guys need to start adding this in your discovery section. Okay, what's the process like there internally when you bring on new vendors? You're not the first vendor they've onboarded, I guarantee it. Okay, and let's say you guys decide you like everything, you want to move forward. What would those next steps look like from your side? Based on how your team is set up right now, who else might need to be looped into this if we were to move forward? Always if, always question marks. You don't want to make it sound like the 80s, right? Where you're assuming the sale and you're like, Jeff, when we work together, I just know we're going to get along famously, right? That's not going to work anymore. You need to make it very provisional and if we get along, if we work together, if we find there's mutual fit here, if we both want to move forward, what would it look like on your team? So that's interrogating authority. Now you want to do that. You also want to add process, which sounds like this. So based on what you said about wanting to add 90K in new revenue within the next 8 months, what are the things you need to do on your side to set this up to happen? Okay, so ideally, how soon would you guys want to start achieving that new run rate, given you said it was important to do it this year? Okay, what do you need to see from me before you guys can make a decision on this? What other information do you need to see before you can make a decision? Use these questions liberally during discovery, and you will clear up authority issues much more quickly and completely. You want both. You want interrogating authority, which is about the structure of the team, the structure of the decision-making process, and you want adding process, which is about their sequence of events. This is creating a happy path, right? So think of it like you're a video game designer. You're creating a path for the player, your prospect, to go through the video game, to go through the level, to have success. Like that's literally what you're doing. It's very sexy to talk about objection overcomes and objection handlers and these sexy lines that you say at the end. And everyone's like, wow, that's such a cool line. That totally just flipped the script on him and made his mind blown. But That's not actually very helpful in B2B sales. What is helpful in B2B sales is being such a consummate professional who's done so many sales calls that you know every single thing that can happen. A true professional can predict the outcome and predict every little bump you'll hit along the way. So what a true professional salesperson or business owner does is they design a happy path. They design a path for the prospect to follow through the entire sales calls, the ups, the downs, and the middle that actually takes them most smoothly to the best possible outcome for both of you. Not just for the outcome of you closing the deal, but for the best outcome where you both get what you want, i.e. if you're a great fit for them, if you know you can help them, if you're 100% certain you can help them, you're able to help them. And if they're not a good fit for you, you guys don't work together. So 3 simple tactical ways to create the conditions for the prospect to confidently buy without relying on objection handling. So if you guys put these in place, I promise you your conversion will rise. And if you're running into things that don't fit into these 3 categories, Slack me, bring it to my coaching call, we'll talk about it. I can definitely address additional issues in training, but in my experience in B2B sales, these 3, everything falls into these. If you are hitting snags with the process and who's making the decision and getting fobbed off because there's multiple decision makers, it's lack of authority. If you are dealing with people snowing you on timing and pushing things out and adding unnecessary time to the deals, obviously it's timing. And if you're experiencing pushback at all with pricing or terms, it's usually confidence, because when people are not confident in the outcome, they try to arrange the deal so that their confidence goes up. And the simple hack there, guys, is don't let people try to negotiate you because they're just solving their own confidence. Solve their confidence for them by adjusting the level of doubt they have and adjusting the level of proof you have and designing your process, your service delivery, your fulfillment in such a way with guarantees, with money back, with different mechanisms to increase their confidence, increase their certainty, lower their doubt. That's how you solve confidence in a nutshell. So quick one. I hope this has been helpful.
Okay, that's enough on objection handling. I think you guys get it. Everyone who's in sales training wants to give you the sexy objection handling, but your coach Drew is the only one who's going to give you the most unsexy training possible. And that's really the fastest and easiest way to make sure you make more commission as a salesperson. It's not sexy, but the money in your bank account will be. That's coming up next, and it's called The Fortune Really Is in the follow-up. Let's go to that module right now.
Okay, so I got asked to do this training on follow-up because a lot of people are just ignoring this. And I was talking on a couple of my coaching calls about how there's so much money in follow-ups, but most of you guys are not going about follow-ups in a systematic way. So that is what this training is going to fix. The basic premise here is you got paid, or you paid good money to generate these leads. You got to get money out of it. You got to get paid to follow up on them. You will get paid if you do follow up on them. So let's get into this. So you all need to be doing more follow-ups. A fraction of you, probably less than 10%, are following up more than 2, 3, or really 4 or 5 times. You need to be following up 8 times plus on the leads you're generating. On every lead that demonstrates some kind of interest, that gives you a positive reply via cold email, that is interested, maybe not now, but later, you need to follow up until one of you dies. You are losing so much revenue by not following up on these leads, okay? So you need to follow up on literally everyone. When you follow up on your closed deals, that's called good customer service and fulfillment. You need to put in place an SOP to send a message to all your current clients at least once a month, just saying, hey, how are you guys doing? Everything good? Anything else we can do to help you make more money? How else can we help make your life better? You should be doing that every single client. If you're not already doing it, if you do it, this is going to lead to a lot more upsells, cross-sells, and renewals. Now, we got to talk about unsold deals as well. So here is an SOP that works wonders for 2+ call ghosts. What I mean is this is someone who's scheduled a second call with you, but then ghosts, or someone who's gone 2 calls with you. They've met both of those calls, and then they ghost after that. So you need to send a recap email immediately after the first sales call with the next steps. AI can always help you generate this. This should have the date of your next meeting, because you're always booking a meeting from a meeting. And then you should send a calendar invite as well for the second call. So that's just the SOP for getting to the second call. Now, if no word back, if they ghost you on the second call, you're going to reach out. You're going to touch them again via email, phone call, SMS between 10 and 11 a.m. in their time zone on the next closest Tuesday or Thursday. Again, this is for people who have ghosted you. They no-showed you on the second call. They probably didn't give you any response at all, right? If they give you some response, just deal with that. If they said, oh, we decided we don't have the budget, or, we can't talk right now, something came up, then you're just going to have to response handle that. But if they ghosted you, you're going to reply, and you're going to call, text, and email in that order. That is how to follow up on people that ghost you for your second call. Now, obviously, the closer they were to paying you, the higher frequency of follow-up. So if they were scheduled to sign up, if you expected them to sign an agreement and pay, then you're going to touch them daily for the first week, 3 times the next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 times, Tuesday, Thursday, the following week, and then just 1 time the 4th week, and then send the goodbye email, text, and voicemail, which is below. If they were simply scheduled for a second meeting to continue and they weren't close to paying you, then just go 3 times in week 1, 2 times in week 2, 1 time in week 3, and then the goodbye. So here's the goodbye email. Actually, I'm going to give you guys a bonus. I'm going to give you the email you send right before goodbye, before your last attempt, and then I'm going to send you your last attempt email. So this is the penultimate email, which means the one before the last one. Hey, name, haven't heard back from you in a minute. Have you given up on solving X problem? Now, generally that gets a good response because nobody wants to be seen as giving up. But your final goodbye email should look like this. Hey, name, I'm going to assume that solving X problem is not a priority for you right now. Totally fine. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Closing your file for now. Let us know how we can help you in the future. Now, after the goodbye email, you're going to dump everybody in a 12-month follow-up sequence. All of you guys should have this. So here is the 12-month follow-up sequence. And you can put this on a weekly cadence, meaning weekly for 52 weeks for 1 year, or monthly cadence. Monthly cadence meaning 12 emails or 12 follow-ups. So either 52 or 12, depending on how ambitious you are. I would recommend that you start with 12 touches and then gradually over time build out up to 52 touches. Everyone who's elapsed through the above sequence should be dumped into a 12-month follow-up sequence. This is what it is. It's 1 email or SMS per month. You can add a phone call or a voicemail drop-in if you want to for 1 year. Of the following different types of content: a valuable relevant case study, a link to an industry article that pertains to the prospect, a humorous meme or joke that's relevant to the industry, a report on a similar client to the person being followed up with, showcasing the great results you got for them, a comment on an industry change or a press release that they've put out, news about them, a how-to piece of content that's going to add value to their business, a recommendation for another vendor in their space that they might want to use. I want to tell you guys about a good friend of mine who has a very successful men's fitness business, B2C. I'm constantly sending this guy useful ads that I see for other vendors, useful vendors, AI tools, things that I think will help his B2C business. Why? Because I care about him. I want his business to succeed. I was initially part of helping set up an earlier iteration of his business. So I have a stake. I want to see him excel and I want to see him succeed and get better over time. So I'm always sending him valuable resources. You should be the exact same with your prospects. So you're going to alternate. That is 7 types of content here. And I'm going to link this Gamma doc so you can just look at it. Just alternate them, rotate it for 12 months straight. You can rotate it 7 times, 12 times, or 52 times. Ideally, 12 to 52 times. So here's an example. And notice I'm going to give you a weekly schedule that would result in 52 unique touches, but you could probably just start from 12 and then build out the full 52. So you can just grab the names down below and build out your own template. So month 1, week 1, case study, how XYZ company increased sales by 30% in just 6 months. Week 2, industry article, the future of X industry, 5 trends to watch in 2025. Week 3, humorous meme when your competitor tries to copy your strategy. Week 4, client report, ABC company achieves record-breaking ROI with X solution. So that's 4 emails for month 1. Month 2, industry change, new regulation, what you need to know. How-to content, 7 proven strategies to boost your whatever relevant metric is. Vendor recommendation, have you seen these guys? Might be helpful. Vendor name. Case study, the secret behind XYZ company's successful product launch. That's your second month. Month 3, industry article, experts weigh in. Humorous meme when you realize it's time to innovate. ABC company, congrats on your recent expansion. Here's how we can help. This would be prospect news about them. So you guys are going to get the example here. I'll just go through a couple more of these. But basically, like the whole idea is you could build out 12 months of content, either weekly or monthly, using this exact framework and structure. And it's just going to take time, guys. It might take you 2 to 5 hours on a Saturday to create the first 12 emails. No excuse. Get them banked. Get on it. Here's the principles of great follow-up. If you're wanting to zoom out to the meta level and look down at how to do great follow-up, the fortune is in the follow-up. It's really a few key principles. Always provide value in your follow-ups, either information or entertainment, or ideally both. Vary your follow-ups. Don't repeat yourself. Don't be that guy who's going after the hot girl who's like, hey, sup? And you just see the blue bubbles. It's just nothing but text from him to her and she's not responding. And he's just like, yo, sup? Hey, girl. Sup? What you doing? Don't be that guy. Vary it up, don't repeat yourself. And then, of course, principle 3, follow up until one of you dies. So, final section here, we're going to go through response handling on your follow-ups. So, Very occasionally, you'll get people sending short replies to your follow-up emails. Something like, haha, or that's very true, or thanks for sending this over. Sometimes you might even get, hey, we haven't forgotten about you. We still want to do this in Q4 or whenever, future date. You want to be thoughtful about your responses here. You got to reply with a laid-back demeanor, not needy, but also you got to take the opportunity to question any objections or stalls they throw up. So for example, with the above, I would send, oh, understand. Just curious what's stopping you from recognizing more revenue sooner than Q4. Or just curious, what's the obstacle to getting this started sooner than Q4? Not trying to be a pest, genuinely curious. Even if they don't want to reply, which they often won't because they don't want to explain themselves to you, it takes more time, they will respect you for always trying to move the ball forward and being persistent. Now, as far as automation in your CRM, I'm not going to do a whole deep dive on any CRM's automation strategy because HubSpot's going to be slightly different than Close, than something else. So depending on what CRM you're using, you just want to set it up in a basic, here's the following framework that you should use. After someone is moved to the stage sales call complete, whenever you complete that first discovery call or that initial sales call, you should move them to that stage. That should trigger the standard post-call email with resources. Most of you guys need to have in your sales process, if you don't already, a standard email with resources that contains a high-level overview of your service and all relevant proof points from your case study, testimonials, referenceable clients, social proof that gets them back in the mind of the great conversation you had whenever they look at it. You could also use this. You could also send what we've come to call in CA your snow globe sales asset, your gamma doc, whatever it is. So that should happen as soon as your sales call complete. If someone ever gets put in stage ghosted or has gone 14 plus days with activity, you might want to set it up at a different cadence, but I'd like to use 14 days. Then they're going to be moved automatically into your 2+ call ghost sequence, or unsold sequence would be another way to name that sequence. And that is up above where we sent those 2 emails, where we contacted them at least once a day for 5 days, first week, then 3 times, then 2 times, then 1 time if they were close to buying, or if they were less close to buying, 3 times, then 2 times, then 1 time. Then the penultimate, and then the goodbye email as referenced up above. So you're going to path that out in your automations. Those can be completely automated, and they should be, because you want to automate your follow-up as much as possible. If you don't automate your follow-up, you're not going to do it. You're going to find other things to do in your business that are more fun than trying to chase dollars in your CRM. And then the final stage of automation you should set up is after someone is moved to the stage lost. Then you're going to move them into 12-month email sequence outlined above. And obviously, everything you want to do should be triggered off the stage changes. So there you go. That is the overall framework that I would use to create great follow-ups and to automate great follow-ups. So now it's just up to you. Do you want extra money or not? And if you want extra money, if you truly want to get your dollar's worth and you want to maximize the value of your CRM, of all your outreach, then you're going to put this in place. But if not, then nothing I can do will help you. So go ahead and ask me any questions. Go down below, check out the link. You'll get the Gamma doc. You can use that as a reference.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that lesson on the fortune really being in the follow-up. Now, the next lesson that I promised you guys was how to role play and practice on your own without a sales coach. Now, a lot of you guys might just be starting your businesses, or if you happen to be a salesperson who's on a sales team that doesn't have the best sales leadership, which is very common, I've been there myself, you need to become your own sales coach, and you need to learn how to diagnose common sales problems and their solutions. So the next module we're going to go into goes through building what I call an anticipatory sales process and how to diagnose your own sales issues based on listening to your own calls and looking at your own stats. So let's go into that module right now.
Drew Long here, and today I am going to walk you through a quick training on how to become your own sales coach. And the reason I put this training together is I really saw that as a solo founder or owner, a lot of us have problems with sales calls, but we don't always have a sales coach who's at the ready, who can diagnose our problems or listen to our calls and give us feedback within 24 hours. Another way to title this training would be Common Sales Problems and Their Solutions, or how to self-diagnose your own sales problems and then solve them on your own. It's very true that you're in this amazing community that has a lot of amazing sales coaches where you can get amazing call feedback. Use that. That's an amazing tool, but you might not always have that available to you. And so it's also important, let's say you have 20 calls booked in a week and you do 3 calls on Monday, you go 0 for 3, and you feel like something's off, but you're not sure what. Well, this training is going to allow you to self-diagnose, listen to those 3 calls, and then immediately implement a fix for the next morning. So that is what we're going to tackle in this training. So the overall gist I want you to get upfront from this training is that you need to build an anticipatory sales process. What do you mean by that, Drew? Well, what I mean is you're always going to come across in sales the same common 4 or 5 objections or stalls or issues. So what a lot of first-time salespeople will do, or new agency owners, is they will deliver their pitch, they nailed their 3 pillars, they drop their price, and then they get hit in the face with the objections. Oh, what can you do on price? It's too expensive. I'm going to need to go talk to my co-founder. I'm going to need to go away and think about this. I need to go run the numbers. You've probably heard these. And what we're going to teach you to do in this session is design an anticipatory sales process that includes all the likely possible objections that could occur and include solutions for them up front before you even get to the end of the call. So that by the time you're laying out pricing and you're laying out next steps, you've already dealt with these issues like decision maker, timing, process, etc. Now, am I saying here that this is going to turn all your calls into one call closes? Absolutely not. You're still going to have to go through the sales process, which can take multiple calls in some cases. The whole point of this is to get you to be more effective at handling these issues up front so that your first call is going to be more value packed. You're going to get more conversion moments out of every single call that you do. I have listened to so many calls where that first sales call is maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and the amount of conversion moments or conversion that actually happens in that hour is maybe 2 minutes. And instead of spending an hour of your life to get 2 minutes worth of progress, what you really want to do and what you'll be able to do after this training is have a 30-minute call and maybe even have 7 minutes or 8 minutes of it be very conversion focused. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So here's what we're going to cover. The problems of prospects won't book a second call. They get off the first call just kind of fobbing you off and saying, oh, no need to book a follow-up. The prospects need to speak to other decision makers. They negotiate on price and terms. They say everything seems great, but they don't buy. So we're going to tackle these all one at a time. So if you have trouble booking a second call, this is what it sounds like. Oh, we've got a lot going on over here. Let's get back to you via email. We'll follow up and book another meeting. Few common problems and their solutions. So oftentimes what this means is you haven't built enough value in your product or service. And this usually has to do with your poor discovery process, or maybe you're falling into the commodity frame, and they think you're just like every other cold email lead gen agency or whatever your business is. So to escape the commodity frame, you want to ensure that you're anchoring to the ideal outcome that your prospect wants, and also ensure you're not using the same terms and offers as your competitors. So a term would be how you describe your service and your mechanism in specific, and then the offer would be the actual offer. So I see a lot of agency owners leading with the mechanism when in reality they should be selling the outcome they can help deliver. So leading with the mechanism is talking about all the technical nuance of your product or service. And a lot of very technical people with technical backgrounds do this. A lot of new salespeople do it, or a lot of new business owners do it or even if you're just selling a new offer, or you're selling a new business, you're going to typically revert back to this because this is your lack of self-confidence in this new offer coming to the forefront. And so rather than convey the certainty of your personality, because you know you can do this, you're falling back on your certainty in the technology or in the mechanism. So here are some things you can check on your own recorded sales calls. Are you talking more about the mechanism, or are you talking about their business outcomes that you're trying to help them drive? Are you talking more about yourself and your business, or are you talking about their customers? Have you asked implication questions or just superficial discovery questions? And, go view David's content about implication questions, review it 2 or 3 times. If you're asking superficial discovery questions on the call, it's any question that you could have gotten off of a type form or a Calendly booking form. When you're saying, oh, what's your goal in 6 months, or how much revenue are you doing per month, or how many deals are you closing per month? These are all pretty superficial discovery questions. If you really take this synchronous time on a call to just ask superficial questions that they could have answered in a type form, you're wasting their time and yours. What you need to be doing is asking contextual questions, implication questions in the context of the call. Based on things that they told you, you need to be queuing off those bits of information you got and diving deeper into them and expanding the information. Have they responded with any emotion whatsoever on the call? And the level of emotion they need to be giving you is a level associated with a stab wound and not a paper cut. So a stab wound level of emotion might sound like, yeah, we'd like to improve outbound, or yeah, we'd like to get more leads. It would be interesting. We're looking at different ways to do that. We're interested in it. That's not even necessarily a paper cut, right? That's a very superficial level of interest. You want to get them to a level, or you want to ask the questions that elicit the level of emotion that's like, no, we're not sure why it's not working. We're trying cold email and it's just not working. We don't know why. It's probably our messaging, but we haven't been able to crack it. We have no idea. We really don't know. We've tried everything we can think of. We don't know what to do next. It's a level of a more intense emotionality, and that's what you want to get. And it's important to note that this is what implication questions function to do, is they create the leverage internally in the prospect that they are experiencing the gap between where they are and where they want to go. And that's what they should experience on the call. The other thing that you want to work on is your confidence, the quality of your ideas, and your industry knowledge. People will book a second call with you if they think there's a very good chance you can provide them with value, which comes from your certainty, the quality of your ideas, and your familiarity with the industry and business. So to build confidence and certainty, you want to work on your delivery and your tonality on the call. To build the quality of your ideas, you want to spend more time reading and researching outside your industry to cross-pollinate in ideas from different industries. Don't get locked into your own filter bubble or your echo chamber. I see a lot of guys like this on Twitter, and if you follow enough people on money Twitter or follow enough small business owners, you start to get the same thing over and over again. You want to be careful about your media inputs. You want to read widely across different domains and bring those ideas back. You want to read across politics, history, geography, geology, whatever is interesting to you. You want to go and look at those other industries. Maybe it's an industry you used to work in. Maybe it's an industry you want to work in the future. You want to understand what are the best ideas in that industry and bring them into your current industry, the problem you're solving, to cross-pollinate. At the same time, don't make the mistake of only reading outside your industry. You need to build familiarity with your own industry, which means understand who are the thought leaders, read what they're writing, attend the conferences, watch the videos, go to the webinars, delve deeper into the technical nuance. A lot of providers in the industry won't do this, and when you do, it shows you're aware of the bleeding edge, and that's what people are going to pay for, is the bleeding edge. So let's summarize. You need to be obviously an industry expert. You need to demonstrate on the call that you're absolutely certain your solution is the right one, have a high level of conviction. You need to bring fresher, better ideas than competitors. You need to speak about their business outcomes and their customers more than you speak about your own business or your cool delivery mechanism. You need to be eliciting real pain and building that tension, the gap between where they're at and where they want to go. How can they get there? They don't know. To the point of emotional discomfort. And you're going to use implication questions to do this. So if you can achieve those 5 things, you are going to win more deals and you're going to have people book second calls with you. So let's tackle this next portion, need to speak with other decision makers. So this one sounds like we're going to have to take this back to our team to review. Now, this is fairly easy to handle. Early in the call, you're going to discover the other decision makers and their decision-making process. So you're going to bake this question into your discovery questions. You're going to ask them things like, how do you folks typically make decisions over there? Or who else would need to be looped into this process? Or what's your typical decision-making committee? Or what's your buying committee when you're looking at outside help like this? Notes here, do not do this at a moment when they're going to be caught unawares. Do not leave it until later in the sales call when their guard is up. And don't leave it until after pricing is discussed. And if you receive pushback or they say nobody else, you can try the following statement. Now, this might be when someone isn't the decision maker and you very strongly suspect they're not the final decision maker, but they're not being upfront with you, or you can tell maybe just from ego, they're trying to pass themselves off as the decision maker, and you are concerned that they might pull out another decision maker in the 11th hour. So you're going to try this. With a lot of my best clients, typically at this point, they want to at least put this opportunity on the radar of insert person. If not, have them attend the full-on call with all parties. How would this apply in your situation? And variations of that. Just bringing it up as, a lot of people, what they'd like to do here is we're going to bring in someone else who's important, who's on the team, who might have a weigh in on this decision. Or, I know you said that you're the final authority on bringing in vendors, but with your technical co-founder, is he involved at all? Does he care at all? Or do you just kind of strike checks to whoever it is that you want to bring on and then tell him after the fact? How does it typically work? Just curious. And get more information that way. If you are systematic about using this language early in the call, you will experience this stall a lot less often. Okay, let's talk about negotiation requests. What can we do on price is what this sounds like. Now, typically, if you're getting a lot of prospects that are trying to grind you down on price and terms, the root cause is one of the following. Number one is you're conveying uncertainty and low status with your voice. And the solution here is just to drill delivery and tonality until you're at a 10 out of 10 in your own delivery of pricing confidence. Number two, you might be talking to financially unqualified prospects. And the solution here is to work on screening and active disqualification before the call to avoid having those calls. And you can do this with a type form with your pre-call questions. You can even do this in the first 5 minutes of the call. If you suspect by looking at their website or looking at their business that they are not financially qualified for you, just go right into the discovery on the financial terms and pull no punches, get the real numbers out on the table, and then just let them know, hey, you know what? You're actually a little bit smaller than most companies I work with, but I have a referral for you. That's where you put in your downsell or your referrals. And then, of course, obviously, if you have enough volume, you could add a setter call, you could add someone calling them and going through those financial qualification questions, making sure they're financially qualified, and then slotting them into either you or into the downsell or into the referral. So basically, with financially unqualified prospects, you just need to add friction until you stop wasting time on calls with those folks that can't afford you. Third problem could be you're introducing doubt yourself in your own services. So listen back to your recorded calls. Are you waffling? Do you sound unsure? Are you using words such as maybe, probably, or possibly? Are you using a lot of non-definitive language? Are you also anchoring the value of your services to something that would cost them 10x the time or money to attain on their own? I've heard several lead gen agencies get a lot of leverage by, for instance, anchoring their cost of $1,000 a month and a revenue share, anchoring that to a SDR, the cost of a full-time SDR, which is, at least $65,000 a year plus. And they're saying, something like, we do the work of 3 or 4 SDRs for $1,000 a month. So that's an anchor, creates the gap that conveys the value of the service. You can also get a lot of value by going to your competitors, look at what they're selling. Is your offer not actually calibrated with what the market is actually buying right now? So look not only at what you want to sell and what you're good at selling, but hey, what is everyone buying? And maybe you're just a little bit miscalibrated there. The fourth thing is you could be falling into the commodity frame. We discussed that a little bit before, but using language and details that differentiate your offer from others in the market. Review your positioning. See if you're just trying to copy other offers in the market, but just do a little bit more for a little bit less, which is the classic mistake of new business owners, new entrepreneurs. You really want to be in a league of your own, an N of one. You want to be positioned in such a way that no one is doing exactly what you do because it's a unique selling proposition, but the result you get is obviously highly valued for your prospects. So review your sales calls, see if you're getting commodity framed by the prospects, and if you're accepting that without using the common reframes, and of course, revisit David's videos for how to address the common frames. It all comes down to value. Hormozy had this thing where he said, I have a $200,000 electric Hummer right now. Could you sell it on the street for 10 grand? How long would it take you? And, for most of us, it would take us a couple of hours max. So you have to ask yourself about your offer. The offer itself, if your prospect could see and believe that your offer was truly worth 200 grand, they would be willing to beg, borrow, or steal to get the 10K you're charging for it. And they wouldn't even think of negotiating. Negotiating comes from a value mismatch. Some people do negotiate just on principle, but generally speaking, because negotiating is uncomfortable, unless someone comes from a deep background of negotiation, where negotiation is just always done, most people won't go into negotiation unless someone's instructed them to do so, or they just enjoy it. So, or they see a big value mismatch. And it's really valuable when someone does ask you, could you do it for a little bit less? Because then you can enter into this conversation where you can actually evaluate and ask them, maybe I'm sorry, maybe I'm not understanding correctly. I thought you needed X, Y, and Z, for which the price is Y. Is it actually the case that you only need X, or you actually need A, B, and C instead of X, Y, and Z? Maybe we need to repackage this and reformulate this. You will close so many more deals and make so much more money in your career if you are willing to work with a little bit of flexibility and build a little bit of flexibility into how you package, price, and position your offers. Not to say you should have a huge menu of 37 different options, right? Lack of focus will kill your business. But you should think about, through the repetitions of sales calls and for good market research, you should think about, can I unbundle my services? Can I downsell? Can I do some low cost in XYZ? Not like they do their own education, whatever it may be. You should come together with an offer formulation that allows you wiggle room to negotiate without giving away the store or making your business unprofitable and creating margin erosion. But remember the $200,000 Hummer, because if you package your offer in such a way and you are actually good enough to deliver on your offer in such a way that you can make them 200 grand, they should be more than willing to drop 10,000 on it if it's extremely clear to them that that is what is in fact going to happen. Make sure your offer is actually delivering the 5 to 10x return. What can you add or subtract to get there? How can you communicate it more effectively? That's the name of the game. So prospects will also sometimes tell you everything seems great, then they don't buy. This is all great, love it. Let's get back to you and we'll crunch the numbers and then we'll follow up with you. Now, a couple of reasons this happens. One is you could be running over people. Sometimes, we get a little bit excited, we talk too much, we are so excited to describe our product or service, and then they feel that we don't hear them, we're not listening, we're not interested in them, and they're just going to give us this glad-handing brush off at the end of it. The second thing that can happen is if you're extremely likable as a founder, they might not just want to let you down. So they might like you so much as a person, had such a great time, such a deep rapport, they want to be your friend and buddy, but it's going to be uncomfortable for them to tell you that they don't actually want your product or service. So they're not going to do that. They're going to push that off and then let you know 2 months from now via email that they're not moving forward or never. So it's really important that you are able to address both of these things. Here's how you can address them. You can listen and observe on your recorded calls. Are they talking? Should be at least 60% of the time, if not more. Are you giving them space to interject? Are you asking questions and ensuring each step in the process is helpful to them? With all these steps, we're going to draw out the objections and the problems early and make sure they don't feel steamrolled. 2, we're going to close doors to the alternatives. I love closing doors in sales. Ensure that your solution is truly the one they want to pursue by closing doors to the alternatives. Sounds like, why wouldn't you do this yourself? Why not do this internally? Why would you go outside to bring in help on this? Oh, there are many ways to get to X goal. Why would you pick cold email lead gen or whatever it is? And after hearing them say, you're going to reaffirm their choice with something like, okay, so just to be clear, the reason you don't want to do this yourself is you simply don't have time. And the reason you don't want to work with someone else, some other vendor, is you've looked at a bunch of vendors and they all seem to suck. And you like what I presented today. Is that right? And then being unafraid to ask, and you're sure about that. You're 100% sure. This is what you want to do. And having them say, okay, yes, let's go. Don't be afraid of direct questions. Asking direct questions at every stage and segment of the call, right? Does this work for you? When would ideally you like to get started? These are all variations of a temperature check, right? Which is just a way to gauge whether prospects are leaning in or leaning out. Now, also to mention, when we're talking about a direct question, don't be afraid to ask direct questions such as, oh, does that not work for you? The positive and the negative phrase and version of that direct question. And also, a lot of people, when they're presenting their 3 pillars, what I've noticed is they'll say, okay, does that make sense? We do XYZ for you so you can get result ABC. Does that make sense? You don't want to ask if it makes sense because, of course, everyone wants to appear smart and they're going to say, yes, it makes sense to me. Instead, you need to ask them, how do you see that applying to your business? Or do you see how that would help your business reach XYZ goal? And they can say yes. And then you can say, how come? Oh, what part of it makes sense to you? What part of it do you think would be most helpful to you? If all else fails, do a confident call out, something like this. Hey, at the end of the day, we're not a fit to work with everybody. And I haven't gotten a lot of feedback. I just want to ask you, and it's totally fine. If you don't want to move forward beyond this call, no problem. I have no interest in wasting your time or anyone's time. But just let me know. Shoot me straight. Does this seem like it won't work for you? Is this not a fit? If you just don't want to work with me, that's fine. Just let me know. That should help tremendously with people leaving the calls. Now, let's do a summary. To design an anticipatory sales process that is going to result in a lot fewer people giving you these objections and stalls at the end. These are the things you can look at on your own sales call to diagnose them, and you can redo your sales process in the following way. What's the main problem? How long has it been going on? What else have they tried? What would it mean for the business if this wasn't solved in 6 months, in 12 months? Implication question. What would it be worth to solve it? What would that enable them to do in their business? Implication question. Who else needs to be involved in any solution? Not necessarily in the decision-making process, who needs to be involved in implementing the solution, as well as the decision-making process itself. What's their desired timeline for solving it? Realistically, of course, in a perfect world, you could solve everything yesterday and already have it solved. But realistically, how long do they anticipate it'll take? How long are they willing to work on it for it to take and for it to actually work? What's their ideal implementation process? Proof of concept, trial period, audit and test, trial with one business unit, etc. Why not just do this themselves? What's lacking in terms of expertise, personnel, time, resources, etc.? Remember, people only buy implementation or permission. Which of those are they buying from you? Why not hire some other company to do the same thing? Why do they like your company specifically? Why would they work with you specifically? Make them give you reasons. How do the other decision makers feel and think about the problems they're facing and the proposed solutions? Are they willing to accept the pain of the problem and do nothing? What would that mean for the business? Maybe it's okay. Maybe the problem isn't that big of a problem. Maybe there's no actual problem. Who knows? What is their best thinking on how to solve it? What have they already tried? What have they already thought about? What is their proposed solution? What would they do if this call never happened? A powerful discovery exposes deep pain and creates internal tension to close gaps. You do not have a powerful discovery if you did not expose deep pain and if you did not unveil tension to close gaps. Sidebar, a lot of salespeople think it's their job to create tension, which actually leads them to being pushy. You need to create internal tension by revealing the internal tension. Ask them questions that get them to reveal to you that they are in pain, they do have a problem, they are far off from their goal, and know they don't know how to get there. And if they're willing to admit that, then you have leverage and you have some room to grow there. So that's the first section of a good sales call, discover the pain. Section, summarize with empathy. Pause and summarize their problem and situation, reflecting the emotional reality they're shared with you as well as the practical implications, usually in dollar value. So this sounds like, so John, you mentioned to me that you want to grow the company to $12 million in the next year. You have no idea why the outbound channel isn't working for you. You have semi-stable partnership channels and inbound, but you have hit a wall on trying to ramp those up, and you know you need to crack outbound. And everyone you've talked to, no one can help you, no one can figure it out. So you've come to me because I have XYZ testimonial that's just like your company. Is that accurate? This is keeping you up nights. It's causing you to lose sleep. You're not quite sure about the burn rate. Things are really anxious right now. It's painful. Did I capture that right, or is there anything else at all that I missed? And you wait for them to say, yes, you've got it exactly right. This is the connection point where you now have leverage in negotiation and where you now have the authority frame. You have the ability to speak a solution into existence with them. A powerful summary creates empathy and sets you apart as a vendor. Most vendors won't do a summary that includes their emotional world. And when you do that, you gain a lot of trust and a lot of respect. And then third, propose with expertise. So let them know how your solution could fit their needs, being sure to show your ideas, superior ideas, your market knowledge, your authority and competitive edge, and the exact next steps, the requirements from them, the downside protection that you've put in place, your guarantee or what have you. This is the clear future. A compelling proposal is a breath of fresh air that gives them a taste of their next competitive advantage, which is you. For most of us are not buying our huge brand name. We don't have brand names. We don't have huge companies with a 100-year history behind us that they're buying into the same way someone would buy IBM or Coca-Cola or Intel. They're buying you. So you have to be their secret weapon and their competitive advantage. And then finally, you're going to transition logically to forward movement. Explain the steps to working with you in a logical way that makes it easy for them to off-ramp or move on to the next small step, but leaves zero room for ambiguity or thinking about it. Ambiguity, certainty kill deals, as I'm sure you've experienced. So your transitions and your signposting towards a clear future are essential to either get a yes, no, or a not now from every single prospect. So let's talk about clear future a little bit, and let's talk about the power of transitions. And transitions themselves could be a whole separate video. So, comment if you want me to do that video too. But clear future basically says, okay, so BC in this order. What we need from you would just be 1 to 3 hours over the next 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And again, we're guaranteeing this because we're doing a limited proof of concept, trial demo, blah, blah, whatever it is. Your guarantee, your downside protection. The logical transition forward in every call needs to be to the effect of, okay, so after this conversation, if I think we're a good fit, I'll let you know how we can move forward together. And just so you know, I have a multi-step process. So today we can just take the first step. And at the end of that first call, you're going to say, okay, so as I mentioned at the top of the call, the next step, if everything sounds good so far and we have alignment and it sounds like we do, because you just mentioned you'd like to kind of explore further, the next step would just be to draft up an operating agreement for the proof of concept or the demo that we talked about. And, we can submit that paperwork. We can get you into our Slack to start collaborating. We can take your down payment, your deposit, and then we can get rolling. You can improve that by even including, hey, so the next step for us would be to get all that paperwork for the proof of concept demo. Do you think that might make sense to do? Or shall we kind of close the book on this and just end things here and kind of conclude? If it doesn't sound I'm happy to conclude. Based on what you just told me a few moments ago, it sounds like you would want to move forward with at least that proof of concept demo, but we can also close the books. Totally fine either way. And when you make that stark contrast and you give them the clear off-ramp and on-ramp, you tend to get a lot more on-ramps because there's no third option. There's no let me think about whether I want to do the thing that I just said I wanted to do. A big part of improving conversions and sales is taking the huge, big decision of whether or not I onboard this vendor and work with them and pay them $10,000 and shrink it down to an extremely manageable next step, which might be reviewing an initial operating agreement or reviewing initial paperwork. When you take big, scary steps for humans and make them little bitty baby steps, you get more conversions. Try it out. It will work for you. And hope this has been helpful overall. Go ahead and design it, rewrite your script or your workflow using the above 4-step process, and let your coaches know how it's working for you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, the final piece of the puzzle here that we're going to go through today in this extremely long training is how to role play to build sales skills the fastest. And we're going to go into that now because the previous module was really all about diagnosing the sales problems based on data and evidence, and today we have to talk about role-playing. This particular skill is one of the most important skills you could possibly get. One of my mentees, James, which I have a case study video on my YouTube channel, which you can go ahead and view probably right here. I'm going to link for right-hand corner. He actually went from 0 clients to 10 clients in under 60 days simply by role-playing and practicing every single day. But how do you role-play? I'm going to give you guys the role-play SOP right now. And it is the following. You need to first identify a solid role play partner. It just needs to be another human, guys. It doesn't have to be an exceptionally skilled sales coach or someone who's been doing sales calls for 10 years. It just needs to be a human who you can train how to be your ideal client. So they need to just speak like your ideal client. And in fact, it's better if they're a little bit mean, if they're willing to be mean, call you names, push back aggressively. You have to practice for the hardest possible prospect you will ever face. We're going to bleed in training, so we only have to sweat in actual battle. So then number 2, you have to role play with this person every day, consistently, at least until you have a calendar that's packed with sales calls. If you don't have a sales call on a given day, you should be role playing. You should be role playing for at least 1 hour, and that's usually enough time for 30 minutes them, 30 minutes you. You can trade off. You can trade back and forth of you be the seller and then they be the seller, right? And you could even trade off alternate days. If you have a very long pitch, you should trade off alternate days. So you're the seller, then the next day they're the seller, so on and so forth. So here's what to role play. So you should role play your entire pitch. This ideally is possible within 30 minutes. Switch, make sure you both pitch. As you get more sales calls under your belt, you're going to identify trends and opportunities. Hint, within my school community, at certain levels of membership, you can also submit your sales calls and have me break them down so I can help you identify your trends and opportunities, and you can practice the parts of the call that are most difficult for you. However, in general, what everyone should be practicing is the following parts of the call in order. You should be spending most of your time not just practicing a full run-through of your entire script all the way from beginning to end with frame, agenda, discovery, pitching, objection handling, negotiation, close. You should be role-playing the following sections. Number 1, discovery and the cost of inaction, the pain, the implication questions, the quantification of the cost of inaction, the quantification of the problem of the goal. That is the only thing you should practice. You should focus on practicing that until you have it down cold. Then number 2, if you have time, or once you're getting great results from the discovery section and the cost of inaction, and you're exactly quantifying it every single time, then you switch to practicing transitions. What are the transitions? You should have written them down. Those should be in your notes. They should be the transition from discovery, summarizing discovery, transition to pitching, then transition from pitching to closing, then transition from closing, they're sold, to closing, asking for the business, getting the money, including things like Clear Future. Only then, after you've mastered discovery, cost of inaction, quantification, and transitions, should you practice your pitch, your 3 pillars pitch, or basically how to describe your product and service very quickly, very efficiently, in a way that's also very benefits focused for the prospect. So that's pitching 3 pillars. Only then should you go on to practice pivoting and framing and reframing. And this is sort of a foundational skill to objection handling, right? Or negotiation, is taking something they give you, pivoting it in a way that's a frame that's more valuable or that's more advantageous to you, and then going on helping them see that perspective and asking for the business. And then 5, at the very end, you should practice objection handling. Now, this is the opposite of what most sales trainers and sales leaders have told you your entire life, because most of them will just practice you and drill you on objection handling, which is good as far as it goes. But the whole point from my perspective and philosophy is, wouldn't it be better to not handle objections at all in the first place? So that's why we cover the discovery so much. That's why we cover the transitions so much, right? That's why we cover the 3 pillars so much, because those things all go into making sure you don't even have to get objections in the first place. Objection handling is last, because the greatest objection handling skills in the world won't be useful if you fail to accurately assess and discover the pain and goals of your prospect. It is crucial that you guys role play enough to actually build skill, and there's several levels of detail at which you should do this. You should practice each section until it feels good, sounds good, and is memorized. Don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. Practice until it sounds perfect, then practice 3 more times. The repetitions you do after it sounds perfect are called drill. So a really big important part of role playing is practicing until you get into drill. If you're still shaky and you're changing the verbiage every single time you deliver it, that's not drill. That's trying different things every time. And you can't drive consistency in your close rate if you're doing things differently every single time, because the variables need to be isolated on your side. You need to have the same flow on your side, because the prospect is going to bring you all the unknown variables from their side. So you need to master what you can control on your side. So here's the levels of repetition you should aim to achieve. Number 1 is memorization of your talk tracks. Number 2 is exact duplication of delivery, so you can duplicate it and say it the same way every single time. And then 3rd would be drill, so you can do it 3 times at least over and over again at the same quality of delivery. The God level skill improvement when you have a coach watching your every repetition and making minute adjustments at each rep, giving you external feedback you need to get it 100% dialed in, then drilled in until you're going to perform it in an automatic and reflexive way. That's why it's so useful, for example, when people come into my school community, they role play with each other. Again, that was enough to get James from 0 to 10 clients in under 60 days, right? That's about 15 to 20K a month in monthly recurring revenue for him. That was pretty significant in 2 months, right? But that's not even at the God level skill, right? The God level skill is having a coach, such as myself or some other coach, literally watching all your role play and making those micro adjustments and then saying, do it again and do it again and do it again. That's part of how I've been able to get people to 50% plus conversion rate over multiple offers over multiple years. Now, let me give you guys a couple of role-playing games to break up the monotony, because role-playing does have a lot of inherent monotony in it. So there's two main games. One is the unclosable sale. In this game, your roleplay partner is not going to buy, okay, no matter how good you are. The objective here is just to build mental resilience and to make it easier for you to pivot and reframe objections and handle objections infinitely. If you've done this game for, let's say, an hour straight, you'll have no problem trying to overcome at least 3 objections on every call, right? You're going to build massive objection handling muscles if you just play the unclosable sale. So again, the directive you give to your roleplay partner is, hey man, I'm going to pitch you, but just don't buy, no matter what I say or no matter what I do. No matter how good I do, just don't buy, right? So that's your first game. The second game is Survive the A-hole. Now, your roleplay partner here is going to call you names. They're going to yell at you, curse at you. They're going to be the meanest, nastiest, most dog-faced pony soldier you will ever talk to. His mission, regardless of what you say or do, is to lose his temper, to scream, yell, threaten, bully, and in all other ways be the biggest D-bag you could ever talk to. Now, why do we do this? This even builds more mental resiliency, and it prepares you emotionally to not be thrown off when people get a little snippy or a little snappy at the start of the call, or when someone comes on and tries to power frame you and says, all right, man, cut the BS, let's just get to the price. That should not even raise a flutter of your heart rate or your autonomic nervous system. Your palms shouldn't start to go sweaty. It should feel like a walk in the park after you've played enough Survive the A-hole. So the hardest part here is getting your roleplay partner to really let loose on you. Like, most people won't do this at a high level, but once you find someone who does do this at a high level, your skill and your emotional resilience and emotional control will go up massively. Again, if you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money. So this game is designed to help you control your emotions. This is stress induction as a negotiation technique, right? If you can induce stress in others at will, you're going to win more negotiations. If others try to stress induce on you and they can't, you're going to win more negotiations. So that's why we play this game. And this is actually something that we play as a game together in the higher levels of the school community, where people are getting the one-on-one coaching with me or the group coaching with me. When we get on group calls together, we sometimes play this game, and you'll see how much fun it is. So there's a little bit more text here. I'm not going to go through all this. There's some techniques. I'll let you read those, and those are also available in this SOP in the school community for you. So that is how you need to practice to truly get to that 30, 40, even 50% plus close rate on a regular basis with your offer. I hope you've enjoyed this. And overall, guys, this is it. This is the end of the training. I hope this has been the least obnoxious, most high signal, low noise, long form sales training you have encountered on YouTube. If it's not, I apologize, and please comment down below what I could do better. Apart from that, still press the thumbs up, turn on notifications, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. I don't drop more than 1 video per week. It won't overwhelm you. And that stuff, we have to do it. We have to do it for the YouTube algorithm, correct? The YouTube gods will punish us if you don't drop a comment or at least a like on this video right now. And again, finally, if you've watched till the end of this video, if you think your business owner or your offer owner or any business owner you know could benefit from working with me in either building a sales team from scratch or maybe doing a revenue rescue, coming into their organization and rebuilding the sales team, or just in general, helping with a few pointers here and there on maybe some rough patches, there's another link in the description where people can go to my website, find out about everything I do. And I hope I'll see you guys inside the school community very soon. Congratulations to you. You made it all the way through. You are a rare person who's probably extremely attractive and about to be very, very wealthy. I'll see you guys in the next video.